Chapter 1235. When he received the news, Xiao Ho immediately brought the doctor to the relay station. At this moment, the person on the bed already had a dark glabella and her lips were purple. With one look, it was obvious that it was because of the poison. When the doctor was treating her, Xiao Ho asked Lu to the side. "Did the princess not drink the medicine?" Lu nodded guiltily. "From yesterday until today, the princess did not touch the medicine. The princess said that she is not sick and that medicine is 30% poisonous. She will eat herself silly." Xiao Ho took a deep breath. He had not looked at her for a few days and she had already caused trouble for him. Did he really have to tie her up before he could stop? Go to the doctor's side and wait for instructions. Xiao Ho sent her away weakly. Lu knew that she had made a mistake and immediately went to the side obediently. At this moment, the doctor was already pulling out the silver needles that were inserted into Pang Zhijing's body. Xiao Ho walked over and asked, "Teacher, how is the princess?" The doctor said warmly, "Fortunately, we arrived in time. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable." After Xiao Ho heard, he could not help but look at the person lying on the bed. Only when she was asleep, would she be as quiet as her name suggested. After the doctor kept the silver needles, he continued, "Although the princess is suffering from a slow-acting poison, the last time she was drugged, the other party did not control the dosage of the poison properly. This directly caused the remaining poison in the princess's body to coagulate. If it was delayed for another 2 days, the poison would have acted up in advance. Fortunately, Lord discovered it in time last time and let this old man prescribe a prescription to suppress the poison. Although drinking medicine every day can maintain the body's normal state, it is not a permanent cure. Just like this time, stopping the medicine is a sign of the poison acting up. So if there is a next time, this old man will be helpless." Lu trembled with fear as she listened. When Xiao Ho was silent, she could not help but ask, "Is there no one who can cure this poison?" Dr. Zhong stroked the few strands of beard on his chin and muttered to himself, "This old man is unable to cure this poison, but there is one person who might be able to. He is the detoxification saint, Divine Dr. Luo. But his whereabouts are erratic and your highness has already sent people to search for him, but it's a pity that they still haven't found him." Lu's face was sullen. "Then what about the princess's poison?" Xiao Ho's face darkened. He had spent a lot of manpower and resources but could not find any trace of that person. Could it be that he really had to swallow his pride and beg that person? At this moment, the person lying on the bed, slowly. The doctor tactfully called Lu away to accompany him to get the medicine. Pang Zhijing opened her eyes. After adjusting to the dazzling light, she wondered what had happened to her. Why did she faint while eating? Could it be that his physical fitness was too weak? However, when she turned her head, she saw the tall figure standing in front of her bed. She did not react in time. "Why are you here?" Xiao Ho heard the astonishment in her voice and thought that she did not welcome him. His voice became milder. "Lu came to tell this prince that you fainted. This prince had nothing to do, so I called the doctor over for you. This person in front of her, he looked fine just now." Why did his words seem to have thorns in the blink of an eye? Her head was still a little dizzy, so it was a little strenuous for her to look up at him. She patted the seat beside the bed and said impolitely, "Sit here. You're too tall, so it's too tiring to look at you." Xiao Ho did not expect her to be concerned about this problem. He did not know whether to laugh or cry, but in the end, he still followed her wishes and pulled a chair to sit in front of her. "This prince is very busy and does not have that much time to accompany you. If you have something to say, say it," he said mildly. Pang Zhijing cursed in her heart. The sky was about to turn dark, so what was he busy with? He was just lying through his teeth. However, she did not have the guts to say this out loud. Her eyes were filled with gratitude as she said, "This time, it's all thanks to you appearing in time and saving me again. It's good that you know. Next time, don't take the initiative to stop taking the medicine." Xiao Ho took the opportunity to instill this idea in her. Hearing this, her mood became much lower. So you're saying that there's really something wrong with my body? Xiao Ho was stunned. He originally wanted to hide it from her until he found the person who cured the poison, but now, it looked like he could not hide it any longer. He nodded. Before you arrived in the capital, your body was already poisoned. However, the amount of medicine was very light, so you did not feel anything at all. Now that it has accumulated over time, the poison has settled in your body. Once it relapses, the consequences will be unthinkable. Pang Zhijing muttered, I haven't even regained my freedom yet, and I'm already poisoned. Why am I so unlucky? Hearing her muttering to herself, Xiao Ho could not help but comfort her. I'm already helping you find the person who can cure the poison. As long as you obediently drink the medicine and suppress the poison, there will be a day when it will be cured. What if I can't find it? Will I die from the poison? She looked at him calmly. Xiao Ho pursed his lips. He did not know how to answer. Seeing his reaction, she knew that her guess was right. She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, there was a faint smile on her face. Actually, I'm already mentally prepared. Xiao Ho looked at her. Only to hear her say, I never understood why I had to drink the medicine when my body was fine. I had a vague guess in my heart. These 2 days, I decided to stop taking the medicine and try it out. Sure enough, my guess was confirmed. Hearing this reason, Xiao Ho was instantly enraged. You idiot. If you want to know if there's a problem, you can ask me. Why do you want to ruin your own body? You have to consider the consequences when you do things. If we didn't make it in time, or if the poison had relapsed, would you still be lying there talking? When will you grow up and stop being so impulsive? She did not expect him to be so angry. Pang Zhijing was shocked at first. Then, she came back to her senses and said in a wronged and innocent manner, you were so straightforward that day. How can I trouble you? Then aren't you troubling me now? He closed his eyes. Suppressing his anger, he said, when did you become so obedient? Aren't you usually very thick-skinned? You dropped the ball at the most crucial moment. He knew that he was a person who did not get angry easily. But every time he met her, his bottom line of patience was broken by her. Pang Zhijing was stunned by his words. She rarely saw him so angry. She was really a little scared. But she knew that he was worried about her. Her heart was still warm. Xiao Ho, who was in a fit of anger, suddenly felt his sleeves being tugged. He could not help but look down. His eyes met with her serious and fawning eyes. Then are we considered to have made up? The pitiful and careful words of a little beast made his heart fall for a moment. He froze there. For a moment, he did not know how to react. After waiting for a while, he did not answer. Pang Zhijing muttered softly, looks like you're still angry. What a petty person. Hearing her muttering to herself, Xiao Ho could not help but smile. He reached out and rubbed her head. He said softly, idiot. Chapter 1236. Most of the time, an action, a look, or a word could be a reason to move someone's heart. At this moment, Xiao Ho was sitting in her room, flipping through a book. He glanced at her from time to make sure that she wasn't feeling uncomfortable before continuing to read. His gaze was like the faint moonlight that fell on her body. It was a little cold, but it also made her feel inexplicably embarrassed. Luckily, he knew that she would feel uncomfortable, so he only stopped for a short while each time. She got used to being stared at. Sometimes, habit was a scary thing. She lay on the bed. Because she had slept too much during the day, she couldn't fall asleep. Since she had nothing to do, she sat up and observed him. She didn't have much time left. She might not have the chance to see such a good-looking man in the future, so she wanted to feast her eyes as much as she could. However, she didn't know that when she focused on something or someone, she would be very serious and focused. Xiao Ho felt uncomfortable being stared at by her. Lie down properly and don't move around. To her, Xiao Ho's sudden coldness made her a little unhappy. You read your book, and I read mine. Am I bothering you? Xiao Ho's scalp tightened. She was indeed bothering him. She added, I don't care. I'll look wherever I want. You can't control me. These shameless words made Xiao Ho even more speechless. Just as she was arguing with him, Xiao Ho slammed the book shut. Then, he stood up and walked towards her without a word. He wasn't going to teach her a lesson, was he? Just as she raised her hand to cover her face and shout that he was bullying her, she saw him sit down in front of her. He said mildly, give me your leg. Leg? What was he going to do? However, looking at his serious look, although Pang Zhijing didn't understand, she still obediently gave him her leg. Xiao Ho's mouth twitched. I want the injured one. When would her IQ catch up with her age? Only then did Pang Zhijing immediately take back her foot and change to another one. Her face was still a little embarrassed. He only asked her to stretch out her foot, but he didn't specify which one. She wasn't a roundworm in his stomach, so how would she know what he wanted? Pang Zhijing felt indignant at the fact that he despised her so much. However, when she saw him take out a bottle of medicine, the anger in her heart was immediately extinguished. She saw him apply the ointment to the place where she had been injured and gently pressed on it. People who practiced martial arts were very familiar with acupuncture points, and their strength was very suitable. Other than the numbing and swelling pain, she did not experience that piercing feeling again. It turned out that he still remembered her injury. Her heart warmed. Seeing him massaging her foot without any distractions, her restless heart began to stir again. She wanted to tease him. She tilted her head and leaned against the bed wall. Her voice was filled with curiosity. In the Sichuan, for girls, their feet can't be seen by others. If a man sees them, they have to marry him, right? In the Sichuan, this situation didn't exist. However, after hearing her words, he had the intention to tease her back. That's the principle. Then how can you casually look at other people's legs? She righteously reprimanded him, looking as if she was the one being bullied. Sometimes, she admired herself for being so realistic in her acting. Xiao Ho glanced at her speechlessly. Don't forget that you are now my fiancé. After a while, you will be the official Princess Consort. He paused. So, do you still want to bicker with me about this? Her little heart trembled at his words. Previously, he didn't acknowledge her identity at all. Now, he took the initiative to bring it up, and in such a matter-of-fact manner. What a fickle man. Generally speaking, when a normal girl heard such domineering words from the man she liked, she would feel happy and shy. However, Pang Zhijing did the opposite. She was provoked by his confident tone. Crossing her arms, she looked down at him condescendingly. Are you so sure that this princess will marry you? Xiao Ho didn't even raise his head. What else? Aren't you being too confident? She couldn't stand it anymore. Xiao Ho raised his brows and looked at her. There was a faint threat in his eyes. What? You still want to run away from the marriage? His words hit her right on the spot. She rubbed her nose guiltily. What nonsense are you talking about? Even if you want to run away from the marriage, you can't escape from my palm. Properly consider your status. Don't provoke Sichuan and offend Nansang. You're so confident that you can find me. Why are you using so much force? This baby is in so much pain. Her foot was suddenly hit hard. She grimaced as she glared at him. Xiao Ho took back his hand and wiped his fingers with a cloth. Then he slowly said, You're so confident that you can escape. The two of them seemed to be joking around, talking about something harmless and fun. But only the two of them knew that they weren't joking around. They just thought that the other didn't know what they were thinking. You say it like I don't have the ability. She retorted with a snort. Xiao Ho's gaze fell on the 7 exquisite locks on her ankle. His lips slightly hooked. You can try. Pang Zhijing felt like her ankle was on fire. She immediately shrank back into the blankets. Then she raised her chin at him, not to be outdone, and lightly snorted. Then he knocked a chestnut on her head. She turned around and glared at him. However, she heard him say, "Don't waste time on these useless things. Recuperate well and prepare for next month's wedding. Maybe in a few days, I won't have so much time to accompany you anymore. Don't waste time." He was the one who was suddenly betrothed, but in the end, he got into the role faster than her. It was simply unbelievable. But that wasn't the main point. She asked, "What are you going to do?" Xiao Ho looked at her as if she was an idiot. "I'll be very busy before the wedding." So be it. Why was he looking at her like that? She quickly laid down and lifted the blankets to wrap herself up. She turned the back of her head towards him to express her dissatisfaction with him. Xiao Ho didn't care about her crazy behavior at all. He felt that since she was so energetic, her body should have mostly recovered. He stood up and said to her, "Have a good rest. I'll come and see you tomorrow." With that, he left. Hearing the sound of his footsteps fading away, Pang Zhijing immediately lifted the blankets and saw his back disappear at the door. She couldn't help but kick the blankets. Seriously, why did she throw a tantrum? Then she grabbed her hair and complained to herself in her heart. Then she laid on the blankets with a mournful face. Chapter 1237. When Xiao Ho returned to his residence from the relay station, he received news that Lin Jiangdong was already waiting for him in the study room. He strode into the study room. When Lin Jiangdong saw him enter, he immediately bowed and asked, "Lord, are you looking for me for something urgent?" Xiao Ho sat on the main seat and gave Lin Jiangdong a seat before asking, "Teacher, you have a good understanding of Sichuan's culture, geography, rumors and anecdotes. Now, this prince has something to consult you about." Lin Jiangdong immediately replied, "Although this one doesn't dare to claim to know everything about astronomy and geography, I still have some research. Your Highness, please feel free to ask, this one will tell you everything I know." "Alright, do you know that there's a person in Sichuan known as Divine Dr. Luo?" Xiao Ho asked. Lin Jiangdong nodded. This person quickly became famous over 10 years ago and has treated countless patients. Not only is he good at medicine, he's also good at detoxification. He once caused a sensation and was sought after by hundreds of families. Later on, I heard that he got married and rarely appeared in crowded places. He would often bring his wife to travel around and treat the patients he sees that he's fated with. He doesn't charge for treatment and even provides medicinal herbs. Therefore, he has another nickname, Living Bodhisattva. After speaking, Lin Jiangdong had some doubts. "Lord, why did you suddenly ask about this person? Did your illness relapse?" Xiao Ho shook his head. "No, this prince wants to ask him to help treat someone." "Is that so? But it's basically hard to find this divine Dr. Luo. There are many people looking for him, but because his whereabouts are uncertain, those people basically came up empty-handed." Lin Jiangdong shook his head. "It's very, very difficult to find him." "Then other than this person, is there anyone else who's good at detoxification?" Although Xiao Ho was somewhat discouraged, he still persistently asked. Lin Jiangdong pondered seriously for a moment and his eyes suddenly lit up. "I have an idea. Although this divine physician Luo isn't easy to find, but his daughter and disciple can be found. They seem to have established a medical hall and specialize in treating patients. Your Highness can inquire about this. Is divine physician Luo's daughter called Qingyan Luo?" Xiao Ho suddenly asked. Lin Jiangdong thought for a moment and then said, "That's her name, because she took after her mother. Moreover, divine Dr. Luo has a very proud disciple named Murongju. Both of them became famous at a young age and became the target of many people's invitation." "Then there's no mistake," Xiao Ho murmured. Lin Jiangdong couldn't understand. "How did your Highness know that divine physician Luo has a daughter and her name?" Xiao Ho said with a sullen face, "Murongju is ethereal, who was sent by Xiao Su to learn medical skills by divine physician Luo." Cheng Luo has a relationship with Ethereal and is now Chu Qingyan's friend. These two people are related to Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan. Lin Jiangdong suddenly understood, but he still didn't understand. Then Lord, what are you planning to do? This prince wants to find Cheng Luo to help this prince treat a person. But it was obvious that he had to go through Xiao Su to find out the location of these two people. Lin Jiangdong thought for a moment and suddenly frowned. The person Lord is talking about, it can't be the Southern Blue Princess, right? Xiao Ho didn't intend to hide it from him, so he nodded and admitted it. Lin Jiangdong was stunned by this admission. He murmured, Lord, you can't be making the act real, right? This description made Xiao Ho frown. Since she has already been recognized as the future Princess Consort, it's understandable for this prince to be considerate of her. Moreover, this prince doesn't want anything to happen to her in the Sichuan. Lin Jiangdong looked at Lord, who was obviously in love, and didn't know what to say. Your Highness, don't forget that this marriage was set up by the princess to marry you. Because of this, you should be careful of her. Although Lin Jiangdong's reminder was reasonable, Xiao Ho didn't believe that little rascal would do anything to harm him. But in order not to destroy the counselor's good intentions, he still chose to agree. Help this prince draw up an invitation. This prince wants to meet Xiao Su in person. Absolutely not, Lord. You also know that this is a sensitive period. His Majesty is very wary of Xiao Su. If you have private dealings with him, and the news reaches His Majesty's ears, he will be wary of you as well. When that time comes, all your years of effort will be in vain. Lin Jiangdong knew that Lord was going to find Xiao Su for Pang Zhijing, but he couldn't let him take this risk. Compared to Lord's comfort and plan, Pang Zhijing's weight was negligible. She didn't seem to be important at all. Lin Jiangdong's words made him fall silent. But when he recalled the lifeless face he saw at the relay station today, he felt as if his heart had been slapped hard by someone. There was an indescribable feeling in his heart. His brows suddenly furrowed as he said firmly, this prince has already made up his mind. No one can change it. Lin Jiangdong sighed softly in his heart. Why did the Lord, who was warm on the surface but cold and self-restrained on the inside, look so different from before? Did he miss something when he was out running errands recently? Since Lord was so determined, Lin Jiangdong couldn't refute him. He could only agree. This matter would be put aside for the time being. Xiao Ho thought of something and couldn't help but ask, has the Southern Blue bridal party arrived in the capital? They've arrived, but because they're fatigued from the journey, His Majesty has exempted them from entering the palace to pay respects. They're allowed to rest first and meet His Majesty tomorrow morning. Lin Jiangdong quickly replied. Xiao Ho nodded. Very good. Have someone gather a list of the people in the bridal party. This prince wants to take a look. Lin Jiangdong didn't know if he was thinking about cooperating with Pang Huang or Pang Zhijing. In short, he felt that the current lord's actions were a little confusing, but he still agreed. All right, if there's nothing else, you can leave. Yes, this one will take his leave. After the study returned to silence, Xiao Ho leaned back in his chair, his entire body relaxed as he sat. Only the words that Lin Jiangdong had said just now floated in his mind. Make the act real. He was very cautious about important matters in his life. Although his marriage with Pang Zhijing had gone through a lot of twists and turns, it wasn't what he wanted at the beginning. But in the end, he didn't seem to reject this marriage. Moreover, unknowingly, she had already taken him under her wing. Perhaps it was because of his mother's influence in the past that he would only treat one person well in his entire life. He didn't want to be like her, who could only be a plaything that the monarch occasionally thought of. He took out a bunch of keys from his bosom. The 7 different keys looked like they were hanging from a gourd vine. It was very delicate. There was a hidden compartment under the table. Inside it was a compass. He put the bunch of keys together with it, then closed the compartment. He didn't believe that she could really escape from his eyes and escape the capital. Chapter 1238. Huang Yi's death was a big blow to Chu Qingyan. She had not been in a good mood these past few days. Xiao Su decided to take her out of the city for a walk and send the glutinous rice ball back to buy yutang and snowflake cake. After leaving the depressing king's palace, Chu Qingyan's mood calmed down a lot after leaving the city. Ever since the glutinous rice ball entered the palace to recuperate, a lot of things had happened. She did not have time to visit Little Hai and the others. Now that she appeared, it was like they had been separated from each other several hundred times. They suddenly pounced at her, sticking out their tongues to lick her face, using their actions to show how much they missed her. "Master, we missed you so much." Little Hai only had a sharp beak and could not bite her at all. It could only flap its wings and blow her hair into a bird's nest, using this to show its resentment. "You haven't come to see me in so long, do you have an eagle outside?" After being disturbed by them, the depression and sadness in her heart was scattered. Her heart felt lighter and she began to play with them. Xiao Ho looked at the little fellows running around on the grass and seeing her smile again, his lips could not help but slowly rise. It seemed like this trip was the right one. It was better to vent out the unhappy feelings. After playing around for a while, Chu Qingyan dragged her tired body back to the tree and sat down with Big Ice Cube. She took the cloth that Jasper handed over and wiped the sweat off her face. "Big Ice Cube, you're so good, coming out with me to relax." She was not stupid, how could she not guess what he was thinking? The two of them had been together for a long time, so they had gradually developed a tacit understanding. Maybe they could not accurately guess what the other was thinking with just a glance or a movement, but in general, they could guess what the other was thinking. "As long as you're happy," he calmly replied. She giggled and took the water bottle to drink. At this time, Bai Yutang and the others ran over to her and made a fuss. She rubbed their heads and played with them. She suddenly remembered that Big Ice Cube seemed to be very busy these past 2 days, leaving early and returning late. She could not help but feel a bit strange. "Big Ice Cube, aren't we preparing to leave the capital? Why are you going out more often?" He hadn't been in a good mood these past 2 days, so he hadn't told her about the mission his imperial father had given him and the extension of his departure from the capital. Now that she had taken the initiative to bring it up, he didn't hide anything from her. Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows and frowned. "Then when will you step down?" "When General Li returns to the capital and I finish the handover, I can leave at any time." Xiao Su slowly explained to her, but he himself felt a little uneasy. Over the years, his premonitions had never been wrong. She nodded. "Hopefully, we'll be able to leave the capital smoothly." If the Sichuan emperor had made this request, then there should be no problem, unless he changed his mind at the last minute. However, as an emperor, he shouldn't do such a tasteless thing. But what happened later changed her view of the emperor of a generation. It was just like how the college entrance examination could filter the results, but it could not filter out the scum. A ruler of a generation could not only be a wise ruler, but he could also become muddle-headed. Xiao Su rubbed her head, indicating for her to relax. "Big Ice Block, look, glutinous rice ball is running around so happily. It must have been bored out of its mind from staying in the palace for the past few days." She pointed at the white figures running around on the ground and couldn't help smiling. Xiao Su looked in the direction she was pointing at. Those naughty fellows were chasing after each other. Fierce beasts should live in a wide world. That's where they should run. She couldn't help turning to look at him when she heard this. She felt that there was a hidden meaning in the Big Ice Block's words. "Then what about you? Where are you suited to stay? What do you think?" Xiao Su leaned against the tree, facing the gentle breeze. He felt a little relaxed and his tone became much lighter. She tilted her head and propped her chin up with one hand. She looked at him and sighed. How could the Big Ice Block be so handsome, even if his face was covered? "I feel that you should live in the prairie, riding a horse and brandishing a whip, free and easy like glutinous rice ball and the others. Heaven and earth is where you go, unrestrained." In her eyes, the Big Ice Cube was like a dormant lion. Usually, when no one provoked it, it would sleep quietly. Once it was disturbed, it would raise its head and roar, causing the earth to shake and the mountains to shake, causing the birds to fly away and the people to disappear. Xiao Su gave a low chuckle. Then what about you? Where are you suited to stay? Me? She pointed at herself in surprise and then raised a brow with a mischievous smile. She pointed at his chest. When he was puzzled, she pursed her lips and said with a smile, "Of course it's in your heart." Xiao Su was stunned by her sudden confession, but then the corners of his lips rose bit by bit. She did not hear his reply and did not see any reaction from him. She felt like she was shouting at a mountain, but there was no response. She couldn't help but put away her smile and fiercely poked his chest, saying, "What? Could it be that you still have someone else in your heart? All right, you don't have to think about how to divide the land. I'll empty the place right now. You can let whoever you want live there. This lady doesn't care for it." Xiao Su reached out and grabbed her wrist. She wanted to pull it back, but due to the difference in strength between men and women, she couldn't move at all. She could only glare at him fiercely. But when she met his pair of black eyes, she was stunned by the smile in his eyes. She couldn't exert any strength in her body. He slowly inched closer to her and whispered into her ear with his warm breath, "You're the only one who can fit in this piece of land. How can I bear to let others squeeze in on you and fatten you up?" His soft words were like the soft fur on glutinous rice ball, gently brushing her ears, making her incomparably shy. She couldn't help but want to curl up, but the breeze brought the familiar scent of ink from his body, lingering around her, leaving her with nowhere to hide, nowhere to hide. You, she stammered but couldn't say a complete sentence. In the end, she straightened her neck and said without any confidence, "This is for the best." He raised his hand and picked up a strand of hair from her shoulder. Under her large eyes, he placed it at the tip of his nose and sniffed it. His movements were very casual, but when he did it, it was so ambiguous and arousing. She instantly felt her blood and chi flow in reverse, rushing to her brain. Her entire body stiffened on the spot, but her heart was restless. She really wanted to pounce on him, but her rationality suppressed her body's impulse, preventing her from turning into a female pervert. She used her sleeves to fan herself with all her might. It's all Big Ice Cube's fault, causing her body to be so hot. Xiao Su saw her reaction and gave a low laugh. She really was too cute. Her pink and red cheeks made him subconsciously move closer. Just as he was about to cover those cherry red lips, he suddenly felt something and immediately turned his head to look behind him. He saw Xiaohai, Baiyutang, snowflake cake, and glutinous rice cake, all lined up in a row, looking at them with wide eyes. Seeing him stop, they even glared at him with dissatisfaction, as if to say, "Continue, kiss, hurry. If you're a man, be more nimble." Xiao Su's head was instantly filled with black lines. How could he forget about these few big lanterns? Chapter 1239. She had already guessed what was going to happen when the warm breath approached her. She slowly closed her eyes. But he didn't move for a long time. She slowly opened her eyes and saw Big Ice and Little Hai fighting with their eyes. Xiao Su, cold face. Little Hai, it's useless. Bai Yutang and the others, that's right. Xiao Su, still cold face. Little Hai, we've already prepared the melon seeds and you're just letting us watch this? Bai Yutang and the others, we've already prepared the stool. Xiao Su didn't want to continue talking nonsense with them. He turned to the little ones and said, "Don't think about the date. Let's do it now. Send someone to send them back today." Chu Qingyan let out an "ah" and didn't react at all. At this time, she was still immersed in the scene of Big Ice and Little Hai fighting. It was simply too interesting. However, Little Hai and the others were stunned at first. Then, they understood that he was taking the opportunity to take revenge. They immediately threw away the melon seeds and stool and ran to their master. One rubbed her head, one hugged her arms, and two hugged her legs. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. They cried and complained. Thus, Chu Qingyan was caught off guard and was surrounded by them. Even Xiao Su was squeezed to the side. Master, master, your big ice is bullying wolves. Master, master, we are your pets. You can't abandon your pets just because you're with him. Master, master, quickly abandon this cold and heartless person. Let's go somewhere far away together. Whoosh, 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 howl, howl, howl. Chu Qingyan was deafened by their howls. She didn't know how to comfort these pets who thought they were going to be abandoned. She could only hug and rub them. Xiao Su listened to them crying and complaining. The corner of his mouth twitched. Finally, Xiao Su and the other three were squatting in front of them, each with a bump on their head. They were glaring at Xiao Su angrily. Xiao Su glanced at them coldly. When they came into contact with such a cold gaze, a few of them trembled. Then, they remembered their status, and the aura of a king that was emitted from within them immediately made them straighten their backs and straighten their chests, looking back at him with arrogance. However, to Xiao Su, this was not even worth looking at. As a result, the four kings were thoroughly despised. They immediately used their eyes to complain to their master. Chu Qingyan looked at them and felt as if they had become spirits. If it wasn't for the fact that they were wearing a layer of skin, she would have thought that they were children who had come out of nowhere. Moreover, they were children with extremely terrifying combat power. Although she was the one who wanted to send them back in the beginning, when she saw them looking at her with grievances, her heart couldn't help but soften. They were all her pets. Of course, Chu Qingyan had to stand on their side. Otherwise, when they threw tantrums, even 8 horses wouldn't be able to pull them back. She thought for a moment and looked at the people who were admiring the scenery. It was obvious that they didn't care about these pets anymore. Big Ice Block, are you really going to send them back today? Can't you wait for a few days? Xiao Su glanced at the dark eyes that floated over. He crossed his arms and leaned against a tree. He said coldly, "They're too annoying." He remembered that if it weren't for them causing trouble, he would be hugging the little one in his arms right now and not burning with lust. His words instantly angered everyone. Wah wah wah, whoosh whoosh whoosh, a woo woo. In any case, they were either the king of eagles or the leader of a pack of wolves. How could they be despised by others here? Chu Qingyan was almost deaf from their noise. She wanted to negotiate with Big Ice Block again, but when her gaze fell on him, she saw a faint smile on his face. It was as if he was in a good mood. She suddenly felt that something was wrong. Big Ice Block's usual style was to immediately carry out the order once he decided on something. Just now, he said that he wanted to send these pets back, but he didn't immediately instruct Huoling. This meant that he didn't intend to do so. Was he just scaring these pets? Once she thought this through, she was a little puzzled. Big Ice Block didn't look like a childish person. Why was he in the mood to tease Little Hai and the rest today? However, she didn't realize that after this incident, she didn't feel as upset and sad as before. It was as if she was slowly walking out of the shock brought to her by Huang Yi's death. This was Xiao Su's purpose. Perhaps it was useless to persuade her, but he could divert her attention and separate her mind from those things. She would no longer be immersed in her sad world. However, he didn't need to tell her his painstaking efforts. If you truly loved someone, you didn't need to show off everything you did for the other party and compare who was better. You could only silently give for the other party and then see her happy, youthful, happy, and worry-free. That was the repayment he wanted the most. Big Ice Block, say something. Hearing the little fellow's anxious voice, Xiao Su felt that it was about time. He turned around and looked at the pets who had been eyeing him covetously from the beginning. Now, they were extremely aggrieved but didn't want to show it. It's not impossible to not send them away today. He raised his eyebrows and crossed his arms as he leaned against the tree trunk and said slowly. Chu Qingyan immediately pricked up her ears. The pets beside her also pricked up their furry ears at the same time, waiting for him to continue. Sure enough, they took after their master. In the future, you have to make a sound when you walk. Don't compete with your voice. Can you do these two things? He said leisurely. The pets looked at each other and raised their paws. They had always made no sound when they walked. Could it be that they were going to run and shout at the same time? Wouldn't that be too silly? Chu Qingyan also noticed this and couldn't help but plead for them. Change it to something they can do. Xiao Su raised his eyebrows and seemed to compromise helplessly. That's fine too. In the future, when the two of us are alone, they are not allowed to come close. Can you do that, HM? He raised the last syllable provocatively at the pets. Reluctantly. After whispering in each other's ears, they all compromised. Then, you can carry it out now. Xiao Su said without any trace of politeness. Little Hai and the other pets looked at each other. They had been tricked. But they had already agreed. They couldn't go back on their word. They could only look back angrily at Xiao Su 3 times with every step. Then, they glanced sadly at their master before running away. Xiao Su curled his lips slightly, revealing a faint smile in his eyes. Chu Qingyan saw this unforeseen event and then looked at Big Ice Cube who was standing there and urging them to leave. She felt a little incredulous. Actually, that was Big Ice Cube's goal. Those Beast Kings and Bird Kings had all fallen at his hands without any prior agreement. Her man's thoughts were too deep. It was too scary. But she liked it even more. She stood up and walked in front of him. She quickly reached out and wrapped her arms around his neck. Pulling him down, she planted a heavy kiss on his lips to show her appreciation. Chapter 1240. Ever since she followed Xiao Su, the way she expressed her feelings was simple and direct. She would hug him when she was happy and kiss him when she was happy. She would use her body language to tell the other party how she felt and loved him. This way, it was better than hiding things. You don't know if I like you and I don't know if you like me or not. You spend all day guessing and wasting time on this. When you're old, it'll be too late to regret it. Only, she was so happy that she forgot everything. When she was about to leave after kissing him, how could that person who was filled with evil fire let her go so easily? After teasing someone, how could she leave by herself? He turned around and gently pushed her back, letting her lean against a tree trunk. He stuck close to her and used his body to block her from the thick tree. This way, no one could see what they were doing. He reached out and pulled her towards him. One hand grabbed her waist and the other held the back of her head. Then he lowered his head and deepened the kiss. He turned her light touch into a surging sea. His tongue swirled around her lips for a while before he plunged in and stole her breath. Her mind was filled with the blooming fireworks. Sometimes it was blank, sometimes it was colorful. She couldn't tell which pair of eyes were his in the twinkling starlight. She couldn't help slowly closing her eyes and giving herself to him, letting him bring her up and down in the sea. She wasn't afraid of being swallowed by the sea or being taken away because she had him. The few not far away adjusted their angle and sat down. They looked at the two tightly huddled together and watched with great interest. As the saying goes, the higher-ups have policies and the lower-ups have countermeasures. They weren't vegetarians. Don't think that they couldn't watch because they were far away. Don't forget their identities. They were experts at moving at night and had great eyesight. This distance was more than enough for them to see. Wait, who threw the stone over? Who? Peng, another leaf flew over. Who was it? A certain person in the distance took back his hand and focused on kissing the person in his embrace. Wanting to fight with him, their skills were too shallow. Huo Ling and the others were sitting on a rock in the distance. Seeing Bai Yutang and the others jumping around, they couldn't help being happy. Since he dared to play mind games with their master, he would probably need to cultivate for a few more years. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to lift a finger of their master's. Today's weather was really good, suitable for sleeping in. Thus, he lay down on his back and looked at the vast blue sky and the white clouds drifting leisurely. He was in an extremely good mood. He would have meat to eat if he followed the little princess consort and didn't need to run around outside every day. Thus, he closed his eyes comfortably. At this moment, in the Moon Palace, Consort Yu was furious. What? You failed? Although Dongting Fan was a little ashamed, he still nodded and admitted, yes, the spy was placed in the King of England's mansion for many years. In order not to be discovered, I haven't contacted her in the past few years, so she forgot her identity. After making the move, she regretted it and finally committed suicide. You really make me angry. Can't you find a more reliable person to do this? Imperial concubine Moon was so angry that she didn't know what to say. Recently, Ran-er's illness had been fluctuating between good and bad. She was so annoyed that her entire body was filled with anger. Now that she had encountered this matter, she felt that everything was going wrong. She couldn't help but vent her anger on him. Dongting Fan silently endured her anger. When she finished venting, he slowly said, if you have a better person, you can do it yourself. Consort Yu's anger instantly dissipated. She could feel the impatience and irritation coming from her senior brother's body. She regretted her unreasonable actions and immediately changed her tone to apologize. Senior brother, I was just anxious and my words were a bit unpleasant. Don't take it to heart, it was junior sister's fault. Consort Yu was a flexible woman. As long as it was beneficial to her, she could put down her pride. Like water, she could be gentle or unyielding. Compared to her, Empress Liang was her extreme. She was too stubborn and stubborn. As the saying goes, if you're too stubborn, you'll break easily. That was why Empress Liang always ran into a wall, even in front of her own son. His junior sister's gentle words dissolved the anger in his heart like a spring breeze. He sighed and waved his hand. Forget it. Do you think I don't know your personality? Consort Yu smiled. Senior brother, you're so magnanimous. You're so magnanimous. Stop flattering me. Let's get down to business. I can't stay with you for too long, or my whereabouts will be exposed, said Dongting Fan. Consort Yu nodded. She asked, then can you still send people to take Chu Qingyan's life? Dongting Fan shook his head and said with some difficulty, after the failure of our spies, we've already alerted them. Now that they're on their guard, it won't be easy to make a move again. Now that our people know that Chu Qingyan has more than 10 hidden guards around her, and they're extremely skilled in martial arts. Compared to these, we can only see with our own eyes. We don't know how many more are hidden in the dark. This shows how important this person is to Xiao Su. Even our people can't get within 100 steps of her for fear of being discovered. Consort Yu didn't expect that Chu Qingyan, who looked harmless, would be so difficult to get rid of. She immediately felt very frustrated and worried. Are we going to let her go just like that? What about Ranner? Dongting Fan sighed. We can only let nature take its course. Don't think too much. You have to take care of yourself. Otherwise, how can our grand plan continue? Consort Yu agreed with him. She couldn't help but try to adjust her emotions. Senior martial brother is right. I have to pull myself together. We still have a grand plan to achieve. Dongting Fan nodded. That's my indomitable junior martial sister. At this moment, in a temporary palace prepared by Xishuan for the Nansang bridal farewell party, a green figure stood beside a lotus pond. He held fish food in his hand and leisurely fed the carp in the pond. At this moment, a black figure appeared behind him. That person didn't turn around and directly asked, "How's the investigation of the matter I asked you to do?" The man in black immediately replied, "The princess is now living in the relay station with Lord Tori. She usually eats and sleeps when she's free. Occasionally, she'll visit Prince Yi's mansion. There's nothing unusual." The green-robed man's hand paused when he heard this. He turned around and looked at his subordinate in disbelief. Is the person you're talking about really Pang Zhijing? His handsome eyes revealed a trace of femininity. At this moment, his astonishment was overflowing. Yes. The princess is completely different from when she was in Nansang. Her temper isn't as violent, and I've never heard of her punishing her servants. She's very well behaved in the relay station. The green-robed man stood with his hands by his side. His wide sleeves fluttered in the wind. He said, "It seems that the princess has changed a lot since she came to Sichuan. However, I'd like to see for myself if she's really turned over a new leaf and become a princess waiting to be married off." His tone was so cold that it instantly turned the hot and humid air cold. Chapter 1241. On this day, Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan returned to the prince's residence. The steward handed over a visiting card. Xiao Su took the card, glanced at the lotus pattern on it, and flipped it open. After he finished reading the contents, his expression became somewhat subtle. Chu Qingyan, who was drinking tea, saw the change in his expression and couldn't help but ask, "Who sent the card?" Xiao Ho put the card on the table and raised his eyebrows. "Someone you won't expect. So mysterious." She immediately took the card and flipped it open. Her gaze fell on the signature, Xiao Ho. She looked incredulous. A visiting card for nothing. Xiao Su took the teacup, took a sip, and pondered. Chu Qingyan continued, "We don't usually have much interaction with him, but he has plotted against us behind our backs several times. What does he want to do by coming to our prince's residence this time? One doesn't visit a temple for no reason. I'm also very curious." Xiao Su said indifferently. She remembered that when they were in Jiangnan, he schemed against the bank and caused Big Ice Cube to suffer a lot of losses. Fortunately, they got it back. But after that, he was the black hand hiding in the dark. From time to time, he would reach out to push you into the gutter. People like this had to be guarded against. This subordinate thinks that Lord E is like a weasel paying a visit to a chicken. He doesn't have any good intentions. Maybe he has dug a hole in front of us and is waiting for us to jump into it. Hualing stood on the side and thought of how Jiangnan's valiant cavalry was fooled by Prince Yi like they were idiots. He also thought of how they caused trouble for his master later on. A ball of fire burned in his heart. She could understand Hualing's anger. After thinking, she couldn't help but turn her head and ask, "Then this visiting card, do you plan to accept it or not?" "Of course I accept it. Why wouldn't I accept it?" Xiao Ho chuckled. He wanted to see why this third brother came to him. In other words, what tricks did he want to play? Regardless of whether it was a trick or not, he would deal with it as it came. She and Hualing looked at each other. Since Big Ice Cube had decided, they also wanted to see why Xiao Ho had come. Because the time on the invitation was in the afternoon, the concierge came to report that Prince Yi had arrived not long after lunch. Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su went to the living room together. Not long after they sat down, Xiao Ho came in wearing a cloak. Chu Qingyan secretly sized him up. It was at least 32 degrees Celsius outside, but Xiao Ho was wearing a thin and thick spring brocade robe. He even had a cloak over it. Anyone who looked at him would feel warm on his behalf. However, he seemed to be used to it. His face was pale and weak, as if a gust of wind would blow him away. However, his expression was gentle, his face was as gentle as jade, and his figure was tall and straight, which was very in line with the current aesthetic standards. Chu Qingyan felt that Big Ice Cube and the royal family's genes were so good that it made people jealous. Each one of them was like an immortal in a painting. However, she felt that this image was different from the scheming, cold-blooded and heartless Xiao Ho that she had imagined. It shouldn't be someone who looked so harmless. But how many people couldn't judge a book by its cover? Thinking of this, she felt that it was reasonable. She didn't know if it was because her gaze was too obvious, but Xiao Ho, who walked in slowly, turned his head to look in her direction. Just when she thought she was caught red-handed, he smiled at her. His expression was so gentle that he looked like a harmless scholar. Chu Qingyan nodded at him subconsciously. To be honest, she always knew that there was such a strong opponent behind Big Ice Cube. But strictly speaking, this was the first time that she and he were in the same environment on such a serious occasion. At this time, Xiao Ho withdrew his gaze and stood in front of Xiao Su. He bowed slightly. Eldest brother, Miss Chu, I'm sorry to disturb you all of a sudden. As he spoke, he coughed twice. Although the two were secretly in a hostile state, Xiao Su immediately raised his hand to ask him to sit down when he saw his pale face. There's no need to disturb or feel sorry between brothers. Xiao Su acted like an elder brother, and his voice was not cold. Xiao Ho didn't stand on ceremony and sat down next to him. Looking at the tea that was quickly served, he smiled. This is Westlake Longjing, right? I can smell it. Yes, it's Westlake Longjing. Prince E is really good. You guessed it right. Chu Qingyan was a little surprised that this person could identify the tea just by the smell of the tea. He was really good. Xiao Ho smiled modestly. It's not that good. It's just that my body is too weak. I usually stay in the manor and have nowhere to go and nothing to do. So I taste tea when I have nothing to do. I can't say that I'm proficient in tea, but I can name a few types. Listening to the two's conversation, Xiao Su didn't say anything and just tasted his tea quietly. The two of them discussed the topic of tea leaves for a while, and the awkward atmosphere suddenly seemed to have melted. Xiao Ho didn't lead to the main topic, but Xiao Su wasn't in a hurry. Chu Qingyan saw that her big ice cube wasn't in a hurry, so she wasn't in a hurry either. Because they all knew that the one who was anxious was the one who took the initiative to visit, Xiao Ho. At this moment, Xiao Ho knew that the two were pretending to be deaf and dumb. One was responsible for chatting, and the other was responsible for watching. If he didn't mention it, the two would probably continue to pretend to be deaf and dumb. He sneered in his heart. The two really had a tacit understanding. Their cooperation was too perfect. He didn't notice it at first, but now that he saw it, he was relieved. His visit was a little sudden, so they were on guard against him. So their reaction was normal. But if they weren't, he should be the one who was worried. After some time, the two of them finally moved away from the topic of tea leaves. Xiao Ho had a whole new level of respect for Chu Qingyan. He had heard that although she was born in the Chu clan, she had grown up in a village. For her to know so much at such a young age, Xiao Ho was rather impressed. But he didn't forget the purpose of his visit. Eldest brother, I have a presumptuous request. I hope you can agree to it. Since the other party didn't say it out loud, he would take the initiative to mention it. It's finally here. Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan looked at each other and saw the understanding in each other's eyes. Third brother, you don't have to be so polite. What's the matter? Xiao Su replied with rare patience. Chu Qingyan also nodded in agreement. Xiao Ho nodded. I want to ask eldest brother about a person, or Miss Chu. Because the person I want to know about is a good friend of yours. Chu Qingyan was slightly stunned and pointed at herself. I know her. Xiao Ho nodded again. This person's name is Cheng Yenluo, Divine Dr. Luo's only daughter. Upon hearing Yenluo's name, Chu Qingyan immediately became vigilant. Nothing good could come out of him suddenly asking about Yenluo. After all, this person was so cunning. She didn't know what his motive was. She subconsciously looked at her big ice block. Should she tell him? Chapter 1242. Receiving the little fellow's pleading gaze, Xiao Su looked at the person in front of him and asked casually, May I know why third brother is looking for Miss Cheng? Since third brother already knew that the little fellow was acquainted with Cheng Yenluo, it proved that he was well aware of the relationship between the two. There was no need for further nonsense. However, this made Xiao Su immediately raise his guard against him. He would not allow anyone to harm the little fellow or the people around her, not even his own brother. Xiao Su's question was unavoidable. However, sensing Chu Qingyan's vigilance and Xiao Su's indifference, Xiao Ho was a little annoyed at his rashness. This matter should be done step by step. Otherwise, it would be easy to arouse the other party's vigilance. If that happened, it would be difficult to achieve his goal. Perhaps this was what it meant to be overly concerned. Now that things had come to this point, he could only tell the truth. Otherwise, given the secret dispute between him and Xiao Ho, he was afraid that if he continued to conceal it, the other party would not trust him. Then, today's trip would be in vain. I have a friend who is ill. At present, I can't find anyone who can treat her. So, I heard that Miss Cheng Yen Luo and Miss Chu are friends, so I boldly came to ask about Miss Cheng's whereabouts. I want to see if she can help treat my friend. Xiao Ho's words were sincere and did not seem to be false. Chu Qingyan was a little surprised. Although she knew that it would be inappropriate to ask about her, this was about Yen Luo after all. She could not casually reveal her information, so she asked, "Is it convenient for you to tell us if we know this person?" Then, she explained, "After all, we are in the capital and our identities are a little sensitive. Yen Luo is just a commoner, so sometimes, she can't afford to offend people and things." Those who were related to the imperial family were usually of high status. She had to ensure Yen Luo's safety. Otherwise, when they were safe, Yen Luo would be the one to suffer. Xiao Ho felt that her considerations were reasonable. He looked at Xiao Su, who was looking at him quietly. After a moment of silence, he said without reservation, "You know this person." Then, he turned his gaze to Chu Qingyan. "And Miss Chu might be very familiar with her." When he said this, an indecipherable look flashed across his eyes. She still remembered that at that time, that little rascal had asked her for help to escape from the marriage. So even if he could talk to Chu Qingyan face to face now, he couldn't treat her normally. Chu Qingyan was taken aback by his words. She recalled that they had crossed paths before, and Xiao Ho was familiar with her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come to her door to seek medical treatment for that person. Suddenly, she had a bad feeling. "The person you're talking about, could it be Zijing?" Xiao Ho nodded without hesitation. "That's her. When she came over from the southern blue continent, she was already poisoned. Now, she can only rely on medicine to suppress the poison, unless we can find a way to cure it." It wasn't that he couldn't reveal the relationship between Chu Qingyan and Cheng Yen Luo so that little rascal could seek help from Chu Qingyan herself. That way, he wouldn't have to implicate himself, and he wouldn't have to ask the son of his enemy for help. However, when he recalled that little rascal had once sought help from Chu Qingyan to escape from the marriage, he didn't want her to have too much contact with Chu Qingyan. Although he hadn't met Chu Qingyan many times, he had learned a lot about her from his spies. He knew that this person had a strong influence. If little rascal stayed with her for too long, she would slowly break away from his control. Therefore, he had to reduce their interactions. Therefore, he would rather put down his pride and come to Xiao Su. Even if he had to face the risk of being rejected and his dignity being trampled on, he still had to visit him personally. In fact, even Xiao Ho himself didn't realize that when it came to dealing with Pang Zijing, his possessiveness had slowly overtaken his rationality. Chu Qingyan didn't know that Xiao Ho had already listed her on Pang Zijing's forbidden list in the future. At this moment, she was shocked by Pang Zijing's situation. How is that possible? I saw that she was in good health. There was nothing wrong with her. She wasn't doubting Xiao Ho, but she was surprised. Xiao Ho shook his head. When the poison doesn't relapse, the person will be no different from normal. However, once it relapses, if the poison isn't cured immediately, the person will die in a breath's time. This left Chu Qingyan completely dumbfounded. How can this be? Xiao Ho chuckled. He looked at Xiao Su with a mocking smile. Which royal family doesn't have secrets? Xiao Su felt his gaze and glanced at him. However, he saw that he had returned to his gentle and honest self. He couldn't help narrowing his eyes. He felt that there was a hidden meaning in his words. Chu Qingyan opened her mouth. She wanted to tell him about Yen Luo's situation directly, but when the words reached her mouth, she subconsciously closed her mouth. She subconsciously looked at Big Ice, waiting to see what he would do. At this time, Xiao Ho suddenly spoke, "First Imperial Brother, I know that you've been looking for a book on the art of war that has been lost for a long time. I just happened to find it 2 days ago. Take it as a gift for my visit. I hope that first imperial brother won't dislike it. Chu Qingyan knew about the military book. Big Ice had spent a lot of effort to find it, but he hadn't been able to find it. Unexpectedly, it was in his hands. However, it would probably take a lot of effort to find this book. Now that he had taken it out for Pang Zhijing without hesitation, it really made people doubt his feelings for her. Xiao Su didn't show any fanaticism. Instead, he looked at the person in front of him indifferently. Usually, no one could withstand his gaze. However, his third brother smiled calmly in response. He didn't show the slightest bit of fear. Xiao Su suddenly smiled faintly. Third brother is also a sentimental person. Let me tell you honestly, Miss Qing didn't follow us to the capital. We don't know where she is now. Xiao Ho's eyes trembled. He couldn't accept this fact. However, he quickly raised his head and met his gaze. It was as if he wanted to see a flaw in his brows. Unfortunately, the person in front of him was invulnerable. He couldn't see what he was thinking at all. Gradually, his gentle and calm appearance became somewhat disappointed. When he thought of the day when Little Rascal's poison almost flared up, his eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of dust. It seemed that he would have to send people to find her again. He didn't know if Little Rascal could hold out until then. Xiao Ho's unintentional emotions surprised the two people present. They looked at each other. They both felt that this Xiao Ho was somewhat unfamiliar. I haven't finished speaking. Xiao Su suddenly added. Xiao Ho immediately turned to look at him. His eyes immediately lit up. Although we don't know her whereabouts at the moment, she sent a letter a few days ago. She will arrive in the capital in 2 days. Xiao Su said slowly. He didn't feel like he was keeping people in suspense at all. Xiao Ho was pleasantly surprised. Good. Many thanks to eldest brother for the information. In a moment, I will send the letter to your residence. Please accept this subject brother's kind intentions. Xiao Su nodded. Then it would be impolite to refuse. Although Xiao Ho had won this game on the surface, he had fundamentally lost to Xiao Su. Chapter 1243. After Xiao Ho left, Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan walked back to the courtyard, hand in hand. On the way back, Chu Qingyan had yet to recover from the game between Big Ice Block and Xiao Ho. To be precise, it was Xiao Ho's performance today that made her look at him in a new light. As she walked, she asked, Big Ice Block, from your perspective as a man, do you think Xiao Ho has feelings for Zhijing? This was something she had vaguely sensed when Xiao Ho mentioned Pang Zhijing, but she couldn't confirm it. Hearing this, Xiao Su couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Third brother's change has surprised me. Her eyes lit up. It seemed that Big Ice Block had noticed it as well. She thought for a moment and said with some doubt, I remember Zhijing said before that Xiao Ho couldn't have feelings for her. She was so sure at the time that I thought it was impossible for them to be together. Now that I think about it, if we help Zhijing, it's a bit like breaking up a marriage. Xiao Su laughed softly. He was a little helpless about the little girl's habit of meddling in other people's business. However, since the little girl recognized him as her friend, he would reluctantly take care. When he was keeping her in suspense, he found that his third brother finally had emotions like a normal person. This was what surprised him. After seeing his fake face for so long, Xiao Su thought that he would never reveal his true feelings. However, his performance today changed his opinion of him. At this time, he heard the little girl's opinion. I haven't seen Xiao Ho much. Although I have a lot of negative comments about him, I think that just based on appearance, temperament, and his performance today, he is a good match for Zhijing. However, if it wasn't for the bad things he has done, I would really approve of Zhijing being together with him. After all, it looks like a loving relationship, and it saves us the trouble of getting involved. Maybe Zhijing saw through his nature and chose to stay away from him. The furthest distance in life is when the person you like is unable to stay with you forever. Chu Qingyan touched the hair in front of her chest and a trace of regret appeared on her face. She recalled Zijing's resolute reaction that day. Even if Xiao Ho liked her, she would not stay. This was a girl who looked crazy, but in fact, she was more rational than emotional. Don't think too much, just wait and see. Xiao Su reached out and stroked her little head, giving this answer. This time, it was already difficult for them to resolve family matters. If they were to get involved in other people's affairs, they would only feel that they were powerless. Chu Qingyan nodded. You're right. We're just bystanders. We shouldn't interfere in other people's lives unless they ask for help. Otherwise, we'll only do bad things with good intentions. Xiao Su smiled and nodded. You've grown up. Chu Qingyan rolled her eyes at him. We've already grown up. Don't always think that I'm young. I'm telling you, if you say another word, I'll ignore you. Xiao Su shook his head helplessly, but his eyes inadvertently revealed a doting look. Just as Xiao Ho was on his way to the King of England's mansion, Pang Zijing was also on her way to Prince Yi's mansion. Just like that, the two of them missed each other. When Pang Zijing arrived at the entrance of Prince Yi's mansion and learned that Xiao Ho had left, the excitement on her face was instantly extinguished. Seeing this, the housekeeper couldn't help but take the initiative to say, Princess, why don't you wait in the mansion for His Highness's return? Pang Zijing immediately shook her head. I don't want to. You said it yourself, we don't know when he'll be back. If he comes back at night, won't I have to sit there and wait until midnight? I won't waste my life doing something like that. Waste your life? The housekeeper thought this princess was very interesting. Every time she said something new, it was puzzling. There was once a great man who said that wasting time is equivalent to murdering for money. After saying this, she shook her head at the housekeeper. You definitely haven't heard of it. It's good that you know this saying. Alright, this princess wants to walk around. If your lord comes back, just tell him that this princess came by. Before the housekeeper could stop her, he saw her turn around and leave with Lu. He couldn't help but sigh and mutter to himself. TCH, if Lord knows that this old servant didn't ask the princess to stay when she came, he will definitely blame this old servant. She originally planned to freeload dinner at his place, but unfortunately, he wasn't here. Pang Zijing felt extremely bored. At this moment, Lu saw that she had nothing to do and was walking around aimlessly. She couldn't help but suggest, Princess, why don't we go to the King of England's mansion to see Miss Chu? Pang Zijing shook her head. No, I heard that she's been in a bad mood recently. Let's not disturb her. We'll talk about it in a few days. Then where are we going? Lu muttered. Then, she thought of something. Princess, didn't someone come from Southern Song? I heard from the people at the relay station that they are in the palace nearby. Should we go and take a look at who they are? She was an imposter to begin with. It was best to stay far away from those people from Southern Song to avoid being exposed. There was no reason for her to take the initiative to approach them. She quickly waved her hands and thought of an excellent reason. This princess's status is higher than theirs. Why would this princess look for them? Of course, we'll wait for them to come and greet us. This is etiquette. We can't lose face, understand? Lu thought that was true. The princess was right. She was short-sighted and didn't consider everything. Fortunately, the princess reminded her. Seeing that Lu had taken her advice, Pang Zijing instantly sighed in relief. She didn't want to ask for trouble. This princess has decided. I'll take you to eat some snacks. From now on, we'll eat from the street to the end. She had heard from Qingyan that there was a snack street in the west of the city that contained delicacies from various places. She had been craving for it for a long time. Unfortunately, she had asked Xiao Ho a few times, but he wasn't interested in those things. He also didn't want to accompany her, so it had been delayed. Now that she finally had time, she might as well go and have a good meal. Although Lu was steady in her work, she was still a 14 or 15-year-old girl. It was the age where she liked to play. Now that she heard that the princess wanted to take her to eat good food, she struggled internally for a moment before happily agreeing. Thus, Peng Zhijing hooked her finger at her and chuckled. Let's go. Follow this princess and you'll have meat to eat. Just as the two of them were about to head to the west of the city, a few figures suddenly appeared and blocked their path. Peng Zhijing looked at the group of people wearing veiled hats and couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. You're blocking our path. There are two ways to resolve this. Either you leave first, or you let us go first. Just as she finished speaking, the leader said in a low voice, Princess, don't you recognize this one? That person had just finished speaking when he raised his hand and took off his veiled hat, revealing a handsome and feminine face. Chapter 1244. The moment Xiao Ho returned to the prince's residence, the steward came up to greet him. Lord, the princess came to find you just now. The steward reported. Amen, then where is she now? He thought that she was in some corner of the prince's residence, so he walked towards his own courtyard. The steward hurriedly said, after the princess found out that she could leave, she left. After saying that, he saw Lord looking at him, so he immediately added, just half an incense's time ago. She probably didn't go far. Xiao Ho's footsteps paused as he silently pondered. The little rascal must have picked this time to find him to freeload a meal. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come at this time. She kept complaining to him that the relay station's food wasn't to her liking. Thinking of this, Xiao Ho changed his direction. Before leaving, he said to the steward, tell the kitchen not to prepare Ben Wang's dinner tonight. Ben Wang will return a bit later. The steward hurriedly complied. When he raised his head, his lord had already walked far away. He chuckled. Lord must have gone to find the princess. Then he could drink another bowl of wine to be happy tonight. However, at this time, Peng Zhijing was curiously looking at the person in front of her. This person had very good features. He was tall and straight, and had a gentle and refined appearance. However, for some reason, Peng Zhijing felt that there was a trace of viciousness in his eyes, as if she was some kind of evil person who could not be pardoned. She wanted to say that she didn't know him, but she suddenly remembered that since he was able to identify her and appeared in front of her with this kind of attitude, then he was definitely someone that the original body knew. If she hastily denied it, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, because she had never seriously sorted out the original body's memories, she couldn't immediately match him. Although she was anxious, she still maintained a calm expression. This princess is forgetful, so I really don't know who you are. So, why don't you formally introduce yourself? Lu hadn't been by her side for long. Previously, she didn't live in the imperial city, so she definitely didn't know him, so she could only rely on herself now. She used a very arrogant tone to say this. If she knew him, no one would be able to find fault with these words. It would only make people feel that she was a bit arrogant. In any case, the outside world was saying that she was cruel and unreasonable. She couldn't bear this accusation for no reason, so she would make it come true today. The person who appeared in front of Peng Zhijing was none other than the Southern Blue Prime Minister's only son, Yu Qingxi. When Yu Qingxi heard this, he humphed disdainfully in his heart. Sure enough, she was still as unruly and rude as before. However, there was one thing that was very strange. When she saw him in the past, Peng Zhijing wished she could pounce on him, but now, she seemed to ignore him. This made him somewhat uncomfortable. Could it be that she was playing hard to get? As this thought flashed through his mind, he seemed to have gotten the answer. His impression of Peng Zhijing became even worse. However, he still maintained a good demeanor and bowed slightly to introduce himself. This one is Yu Qingxi. He had always been arrogant, and because he was quite famous in the southern blue continent, he only used his name when he introduced himself. He knew that 3 words were enough, and his reputation was enough for others to recognize him. However, Peng Zhijing did recognize him, but not because of his fame. At this moment, her mind was buzzing with thoughts. Yu Qingxi. Yu Qingxi. Wasn't he the one who wanted to take her life? Wasn't he the one whom the original owner of this body liked? Oh no, how did he find this place? Could it be that he wanted to kill her again? When she saw the few people standing behind him, she couldn't help but overlap them with the black-clothed men who tried to assassinate her. Her entire body trembled. Yu Qingxi didn't quite understand why Pang Zhijing actually looked at him with a frightened expression when he said his name. This made him unable to make heads or tails of it. No, this was the Shishuan, and they were in public. He wouldn't dare to make a move so brazenly. With this thought, her body stopped trembling. However, it was still better to escape from this place. Oh, this princess knows. This time, you're in charge of the bridal escort. Congratulations on getting such a good job and going abroad to play. Good. Then this princess won't disturb your leisure time. Goodbye. After she finished speaking, she was about to walk past him. Of the 36 stratagems, leaving was the best stratagem. However, she had just taken a step when Yu Qingxi stopped her. Pang Zhijing looked up at him a little apprehensively. Is there anything else, young master Yu? Her hidden meaning was that if there was nothing else, then get lost as soon as possible. Yu Qingxi couldn't understand the Pang Zhijing in front of him. Although he had never taken the initiative to find her in the past, as long as she saw him, she would always stick to him. He couldn't chase her away even if he wanted to. Now that he took the initiative to appear in front of her, she wanted to leave. This was a little unreasonable. Yu Qingxi was even more certain in his heart that if she wasn't playing hard to get, then she was afraid that he would mention the evil things she did back then. Therefore, he loathed her even more. Moreover, he wanted to see how long she could pretend for. Princess. Yu Qingxi stood in front of her and ignored her gaze. He said with a smile, "You're right. It's indeed thanks to the princess that I was able to come out this time." So. Pang Zhijing roared in her heart. In her opinion, he just wanted to say that it was thanks to her that he had a chance to kill her for revenge. Pang Zhijing thought this and became even more nervous and vigilant towards him. There's no need to be polite. In any case, we won't have many chances to meet in the future. Let's not have any contact with each other from now on. Before she could finish speaking, Yu Qingxi continued, why don't the princess take me for a walk around here and see how prosperous the capital is? Or perhaps the princess doesn't want to walk around. We can also find a place to sit down and drink tea and chat. We haven't seen each other for so long, so let's reminisce about the old days. After all, you often wanted me to take you out to play in the past. Although I was very busy, I couldn't fulfill it. Pang Zhijing jumped in fright. This person actually wanted to reminisce about the old days with her. What kind of international joke was this? If she walked with him, she would have to constantly be on guard against whether he would suddenly pull out a knife and slash it at her neck. However, at this moment, Yu Qingxi seemed to have seen something. His eyes moved, and then his voice was gentle and tender as he said, I know you like to eat hibiscus cake the most. There's a shop in front that makes pretty good pastries. How about I take you to try it? Pang Zhijing was shocked by his sudden gentleness. What the hell? Didn't they agree that this person would avoid her like a snake and scorpion and hate her to the bone? Why was he acting so abnormally now? At this moment, Yu Qingxi looked behind her and raised his eyebrows slightly. Pang Zhijing followed his gaze and couldn't help but turn back to look. She saw that Xiao Ho had arrived at some point in time. He stood there with elegant features and an indifferent expression. Pang Zhijing subconsciously glanced at Yu Qingxi, then looked back at him. The relationship between her old crush and her current fiancé was so complicated. She subconsciously swallowed her saliva. It's over. Chapter 1245. Who is this? Yu Qingxi looked at Pang Zhijing and asked with a puzzled expression. However, at this moment, Xiao Ho was also looking at her. He narrowed his eyes, wanting to see how she would explain his identity in front of her old lover. Xiao Ho didn't realize that he actually had a serious attitude at this moment. This scene looked very normal, but for some reason, she felt a chill run down her spine, as if a powerful cold air was blowing at her. This is Xiao Ho, the current Lord. She introduced him in a proper manner, and then the cold air on her back increased. It changed from economic to powerful. She felt baffled, but she couldn't help but add, he's also my fiancé. As soon as she finished speaking, the cold air retreated. In an instant, she felt that the summer temperature was still acceptable. It didn't matter if it was a little hot, it was better than bone-chilling cold. Yu Qingshi's lips curved slightly. It seemed that his guess just now was right. This person was Xiao Ho, the imperial son-in-law of this unruly princess in front of him. Xiao Ho walked to her side and faced Yu Qingshi together. He said, "This gentleman is..." Pang Zhijing's scalp tightened again. Why did he come to join in the fun? However, she still smiled and introduced, "This is the official in charge of this bridal party, Yu Qingshi, Lord Yu." This alienated tone and flat introduction made Xiao Ho's brows relax a little. He nodded at Yu Qingshi. "So it's Prime Minister Yu's beloved son. Nice to meet you." Earlier, Yu Qingshi was still thinking about Pang Zhijing's cold and indifferent introduction to her, and she had some bewilderment in her heart. Could it be that it was because of Xiao Ho's appearance that she restrained herself and didn't dare show too much intimacy with me? However, when he heard Xiao Ho's words, he was instantly displeased. What he disliked the most was when others always liked to associate him with his father when they heard his name. It was as if he was only his father's accessory. No matter what he did, others would only see him as the Prime Minister's son and wouldn't affirm him because of his efforts. Although Xiao Ho poked at his sore spot, he still replied with a smile, "I've long heard of Lord Yi's great name, but now that I see that Lord is full of energy and isn't as weak as the rumors say, it seems that many rumors aren't credible." "Nice to meet you." "Great name?" "The great name of the sickly Lord Yi." Xiao Ho smiled but didn't say anything. At this moment, Pang Zhijing felt that Yu Qingshi's words were so strange. For a moment, she forgot her fear of him. Perhaps it was because she had Xiao Ho by her side that she gained confidence. She said to him in annoyance, "If you don't know how to speak, then don't speak. Our family's Lord Yi is in good health." The words that came out of her mouth instantly stunned the two men present. One was, when did she get angry at him, and it was because of another man. The other was, our family. Very good, he was very comfortable with these words. Then he wouldn't fuss about her talking with her old lover for so long for the time being. After she finished speaking, the scene fell silent. She was a little regretful. She chuckled and waved her hand. "Why is the weather so hot today? It's weird to stand here and talk." The two men present subconsciously looked at the sky covered by clouds. They clearly didn't feel hot at all. "Princess is right. Why don't we go to the tea house in front and have a seat?" Yu Qingshi invited with a smile. Pang Zhijing's vigilance rose again. Why did this person want to drink tea and chat with her? It was too suspicious. Just as she was racking her brains to think of a way to refuse him, the person beside her spoke. "I'm afraid I'll have to reject young Master Yu's good intentions. This prince promised Zhijing that he would take her out for a walk today, so I won't accompany young Master Yu. Next time, this prince and Zhijing will host a banquet in the residence and invite young Master Yu to the residence for a chat to satisfy the host's wishes." Pang Zhijing was stunned. When did he agree to go out today? Why didn't she know? Yu Qingshi keenly felt that this Xiao Ho in front of him was hostile to him. Although it was very shallow, he could still see some clues. For example, at this moment, Xiao Ho deliberately said that he wanted to take Pang Zhijing away and invite him as her fiancé. Although he didn't know if Xiao Ho would do this when the time came, at this moment, he had already imperceptibly distanced himself from Pang Zhijing and pulled Pang Zhijing to his side. He had an illusion that Xiao Ho was declaring his sovereignty. At this time, Xiao Ho had already said this, so he couldn't force it. Then I'll have to disturb Lord at that time. Yu Qingshi smiled and said, "Since the two of you have something to do, then I won't disturb the two of you. Please." Pang Zhijing stared at the person beside her with wide eyes. He sent away the annoying Yu Qingxi with just a few words. As expected, he was amazing. At this time, she heard Xiao Ho's gentle voice say, "Xijing, let's go." She instantly had goosebumps all over her body. Such a gentle voice was really flattering. However, in order not to expose herself, she still smiled and nodded. Shaking off the goosebumps on her body, she directly walked past Yu Qingxi and walked forward. Xiao Ho also walked slowly beside her. Yu Qingxi turned around and narrowed his eyes as he watched the two of them leave hand in hand. The subordinate beside him said, "Young master, did you also notice that the princess has changed a lot?" Yu Qingxi laughed mockingly. "It's not like you don't know that she's best at acting." Back then, was deceived by her deceptive and obedient appearance and fell into her trap. If this young master hadn't arrived at the right time, the consequences would have been unimaginable. The subordinate nodded. He continued, "No need to send people to keep an eye on Xiao Ho. You just have to keep an eye on Pang Xijing and report her every move. This young master doesn't believe that this time in the Sichuan, I won't be able to kill her." When he thought of Er's gentleness and kindness, he loathed Pang Xijing even more. A cold glint flashed in his eyes, and he flung his sleeves and returned to the temporary imperial residence. At this time, Pang Xijing turned around and saw that Yu Qingxi's shadow was already nowhere to be seen. She couldn't help but sigh in relief. Enemies truly meet on a narrow road. Don't let me meet him again in the future. At this time, she suddenly heard a sarcastic voice beside her. "If you can't bear to part with your old flame, you can go back now. I won't stop you." These words made her turn to look at him in confusion. Why do I have to look for him? Who's an old flame? Xiao Ho glanced at her coldly, then looked away and ignored her. She suddenly came to a realization. "You're talking about Yu Qingxi. Please, that's at most an unfulfilled secret love." "No, according to the original body's blatant pursuit, it should be an unfulfilled secret love. It's not some old flame. Don't get it mixed up. I've never dated him." One look at his sinister appearance and she knew that he wasn't a good person. She couldn't wait to avoid him. Unfulfilled secret love? Xiao Ho scoffed. Pang Xijing looked up and saw that he had already walked away with large strides. She immediately jogged after him. Hey, what's wrong with you? Why are you angry for no reason?" Chapter 1246. She ran to his side and pulled on his sleeve. Panting, she said, "Don't walk so fast. Can't you see that Lu can't keep up with you?" Lu who was at the side, was innocently implicated. It was clearly the princess who couldn't keep up, it had nothing to do with this servant. Xiao Ho was currently suppressing his anger and did not want to talk to her at all. Although he did not know what was wrong with him, he did not want to suppress his inner thoughts. He remembered that he used to be very good at controlling his emotions. Ever since he met her, he was affected by her willful laughter and playfulness. In front of her, he gradually stopped wearing his false mask and revealed his true nature. Seeing that he had no intention of paying attention to her, she rolled her eyes and immediately bent down to rub her ankle. Ouch! When Xiao Ho heard the sound, he frowned and stopped. He turned around and walked back to her side. Seeing her pained expression, his heart skipped a beat. He could not help but squat down, wanting to check her previous injury. However, just as he was about to move, he heard her steady breathing. He narrowed his eyes and immediately stood up. His gaze was cold as he said, "Is lying very fun?" When she saw that he was about to get angry, she did not think and immediately rushed over to hug his arm. She shook it coquettishly, "I was wrong. Don't walk so fast. Otherwise, it will really relapse. Then it won't count as lying." All of her actions flowed naturally. They were all subconscious actions. She naturally acted coquettishly, as if the two of them had acted out this action countless times. Her soft voice calmed his anger. Xiao Ho glanced at her, "You have a good attitude in admitting your mistake. I will be magnanimous and not pursue this matter. Just don't do it again. She immediately straightened her back and stood in a military posture. She saluted him, as you command. Xiao Ho was amused by her appearance and shook his head. He continued to walk forward, but this time, he slowed down a lot. Where are we going? She smiled as she followed beside him. She was the kind of person who would take advantage of others. West of the city. West of the city. Pang Zhijing immediately imagined a hot and fragrant food street. Blinking her eyes, she suppressed her joy and asked, then what are we going to do there? She didn't quite believe that a clean freak like him would go to such a place. If he was going to do something, she would take Lu to eat by herself. Xiao Ho said calmly, didn't you say you were going to the west of the city? So you want to take me to eat something delicious? She widened her eyes, feeling as if she had been struck by good luck. Xiao Ho looked at her like she was an idiot. What do you think you can do in that place other than eating? Oh yeah. She was so happy that she spun around on the spot. She turned around and held Lu's hand as she cheered, Lu, I said I'll take you to eat delicious food. I didn't go back on my words, did I? Lu glanced at Lord, who was being ignored by her princess, and silently shrank her neck. It was clearly Lord who wanted to take you to eat delicious food. The west of the city was a little far, so Lu suggested taking a carriage. However, Peng Zhijing, who hadn't gone out for the past 2 days because of her foot injury, refused righteously. She had been holding it in for long enough. Today, she should take a good look around. Otherwise, she would feel as if her foot was crippled again. Xiao Ho originally didn't allow her to walk for a long time, but seeing how excited she was, he didn't stop her. When the group passed by a pastry shop, Xiao Ho suddenly stopped. Peng Zhijing, who was talking to Lu didn't notice. After a few steps and the people beside her disappeared, she turned around to look for him. Seeing him staring at the colorful pastries, she couldn't help but ask, are you hungry? Xiao Ho didn't answer her. He pointed at the pastries and asked the shop owner to wrap them up. Peng Zhijing stood at the side and watched as he inexplicably ignored her. She felt very wronged. Just as she was about to turn around and leave, a bag suddenly appeared in her hand. Wasn't this what he bought from the shop owner just now? She was surprised and happy as she jogged to catch up with him. Why did you buy it for me? I'm not hungry. Don't you like hibiscus cakes? He looked straight ahead. Huh? Why didn't she know? Oh, right, just now Yu Qingxi said that the original body liked to eat this, but she wasn't the original body. In the future, if you want to eat something, just tell me. Don't just go with someone else. Be careful that you don't get sold and still help count the money. Xiao Ho's tone was slightly uncomfortable. The insensitive Peng Zhijing didn't notice that there was something wrong with his tone. She said angrily, although I'm a foodie, I'm also a foodie with integrity. How can I be cheated by someone else? However, she thought about it and said suspiciously, why are you suddenly so good to me? Do you still remember that you were the one who wanted to sell me back then? Didn't I help you count the money back then? These words made Xiao Ho's whole body tremble. That's right, he was indeed using her back then. Now that she was no longer of any value to him, why did he care about her instead? All of her actions were very strange. He had never seen himself like this before. Seeing his sullen face, Peng Zhijing thought that she was too blunt and hurt his heart. She immediately reflected and opened the hibiscus cake, stuffed one into her mouth, and then said incoherently, but let me tell you, the hibiscus cake isn't my favorite. My favorite is the red bean cake. In the future, don't buy this for me. Just bring me the red bean cake. Xiao Ho's thoughts were pulled out by her words. He looked at the person who had taken advantage of him and started to tell him what to eat. He couldn't help but twitch his mouth. At this moment, Peng Zhijing glanced at him, thinking that he was looking at the hibiscus cake in her arms. So, she picked up a piece, tiptoed, and stuffed it directly into his mouth. Then, she patted the cake crumbs on her hands and said with a smile, "You should try the taste too." Xiao Ho was stunned by her actions. Her warm and delicate fingertips brushed against his lips, causing him to be absent-minded for a moment. That was why he fell into her trap. At this moment, with a mouthful of the hibiscus cake in his mouth, he tasted a sickeningly sweet taste. It was as if this was contagious, and it went straight to his heart. At this moment, Peng Zhijing was sharing the cake with Lu Er. She stuffed it into her hands. "It's very delicious. Try it." Lu Er expressed her refusal. This was sold to the princess by the lord. If she ate it, she would definitely be scolded by the lord, because she could already feel the lord's sharp gaze. Peng Zhijing was especially helpless. Although she loved to eat sweet things, she really didn't like the taste of the hibiscus cake. However, she couldn't say it in front of Xiao Ho, so she could only gloomily eat it one bite at a time. "You Qingxi, you despicable jinx. It's all your fault." She blamed all her resentment on Yu Qingxi. Yu Qingxi, who was on the way back, suddenly sneezed. Who was talking bad about him behind his back? Chapter 1247. After fooling around for a while, they arrived at the western part of the city. It was already evening and the sun was hanging over the mountain peak, as if it would set in the blink of an eye. Many vendors had already opened for business and hung up their lanterns, preparing to enter the market to sell their wares. Peng Zhijing finally swallowed the last piece of hibiscus cake. Fortunately, her appetite was not small, otherwise, she would not be able to eat any delicacies later. "Alright, starting from now, we'll eat from one end of the street to the other. If I don't eat everything, I'm not called Peng Zhijing." She spread out her arms and solemnly declared. Xiao Ho looked at the endless street and subconsciously held his forehead. He reckoned that he would see a round pig later. While he was still holding his forehead, he heard someone calling him from afar. He looked towards the source of the voice and saw that under the waning lights, that person was standing in the midst of the bustling crowd, waving at him. She had bright eyes and white teeth, and everyone around her had become illusory figures. Only she was there, so distinct. Xiao Ho was in a daze for a while. Only when he heard her dissatisfied urging did he slowly walk towards her. "I originally didn't want to enter the mortal world and focus on revenge. It was you who pulled me into the bustling street and felt the scent of smoke. If I knew when it started, I wouldn't have lost its whereabouts." This street was very lively. In addition, the two's appearance and temperament were very outstanding, so the crowd intentionally or unintentionally squeezed towards them. Before she could reach the vendor she wanted, she was already pushed out. She complained to Xiao Ho in a somewhat distressed manner, "It seems that your previous suggestion was right. We should wear a veil hat to cover your face that angers both men and gods. This prince has never done useless work." Xiao Ho retorted to her disdain from last time. "You don't need to praise yourself, otherwise you'll be inflated to the sky." She stuck out her tongue and was bumped into again. Fortunately, Xiao Ho protected her, otherwise she would have fallen to the side. At this time, Xiao Ho frowned and said, "Why don't we go back?" "How can we do that? It's not easy to come here." She didn't know when the next time would be. She muttered in her heart. Then, her eyes lit up as she thought of a good idea. "How about this, I'll pull your sleeve, and we won't get separated." She reached out to pull his sleeve. Seeing that she was still in high spirits, Xiao Ho let out a light sigh. His arm moved, and when she reached out, he held her hand. Then, his sleeve fell, covering the two people's intertwined fingers. She felt as if her entire body had been electrocuted, and an electric current instantly ran through her entire body. She lowered her head and looked at their interlocked hands, unable to react in time. She only wanted to pull his sleeve, so how did it become holding his hand? At this moment, Xiao Ho's voice rang out, "It's our turn. You choose." These words instantly made a foodie forget the entanglement in her mind and successfully diverted her attention. She immediately took a step forward and said happily, "Boss, 3 hemp balls. Wrap them up in 3 paper bags." Xiao Ho looked at her drooling face and couldn't help but slowly curl his lips. The few commoners who were originally in front happily took the silver and lined up behind them. They also looked curiously at the handsome man who was holding the hand of a beautiful girl. That hemp ball was only a few cents, so they just had to wait. They didn't expect that handsome man to be so generous. He directly gave each of them a piece of silver and used his eyes to signal them to go to the back. After taking the silver that was enough for them to eat for a month, they immediately ran to the back. He really hoped that he would meet such a generous man who doted on his wife again. Xiao Ho looked at the hemp ball that was stuffed into his hand and was a little stunned. Since young, he had never eaten these roadside stalls. Moreover, he was constantly working hard to become stronger, so he didn't have time to come into contact with these things. At this moment, it was as if he was looking at a new thing and was completely at a loss. Pang Zhijing took a big bite and then urged him to eat quickly, using the excuse that she wanted to eat something else. Xiao Ho was silent for a while, as if he was mentally preparing himself. Seeing her eating so happily, stuffing it into her mouth and finishing it in a few bites, he couldn't help but put it in his mouth and took a bite. The taste was unexpectedly not bad. Delicious, right? She blinked and smiled at him proudly, but quickly said, "But no matter how delicious it is, we can only eat one. This way, we will have the stomach to eat the next delicacy." "You seem to have a lot of experience," Xiao Ho said suspiciously. She snorted lightly, "That's true. In the past, I could be a fighter among foodies. Let me tell you, if you are greedy for a delicacy and eat too much at once, then not only will you miss the next delicacy, you will also become tired of this delicacy. This way, you will have one less delicacy to enjoy. Wouldn't the gains not make up for the losses?" When she talked about food, it was a lesson that was summed up by blood and tears. Xiao Ho looked at her speaking with assurance. Although he didn't know where she got this theory from, but thinking about it carefully, it was quite the case. Later, when he recalled her words, he understood that this was also her view of love. Maybe she liked a person very much, but she wouldn't stay for him. It was like she was afraid that she would become addicted and in the end, she could only give up when she was tired. Thus, in the following time, the three of them ate wherever they went. Xiao Ho seemed to have opened a new world. He unexpectedly felt that eating these things once in a while was not bad. After eating until they were about 70 to 80% full, Pang Zhijing took the handkerchief from Lu Er and wiped her mouth. She turned her head to look at a certain someone who was walking on the red carpet in the downtown area. She couldn't help but feel that he was quite pleasing to the eye. Moreover, just now, she stuffed the food that she couldn't eat to him. He even cooperated and finished it, not minding her saliva at all. She was very satisfied. She walked slowly to digest the food. With him by her side to protect her, she wasn't afraid of being bumped into by others. She suddenly remembered something. "You did it on purpose just now, didn't you?" "What do you mean?" "I know that Yu Qingxi doesn't like others to talk about him and Prime Minister you together. You hit the nail on the head the moment you came up. You didn't see how ugly his expression was at that time, ha ha ha, I don't understand what you're talking about." Xiao Ho denied. Actually, he could tell that Yu Qingxi was a very noble and arrogant person. He was good at reading people's minds. Moreover, he often saw this kind of person, so it was very easy to dampen his spirit. Moreover, in these few days, he had already investigated this person's life and all kinds of things. It could be said that in this world, other than Yu Qingxi's parents, he knew him like the back of his hand. Pang Zhijing pursed her lips. Really, what was there to not admit? However, at this moment, she realized that the person beside her was standing still and looking at a place. She couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong?" "I met an acquaintance." His voice was a little tense. Chapter 1248. Who is it? She felt that there was something wrong with his expression and couldn't help but follow his gaze. When she saw the two people standing in front of the stall, Pang Zhijing was very surprised and couldn't help but wave at them. Qing Yan, look here." Today, Xiao Su saw that the little fellow hadn't eaten much recently, and thought that it had a lot to do with Huang Yi's absence. He couldn't bear to see her like this, so he took her out to look for food. The old street in the west of the city had a certain amount of history, so the two came to this place. Just as the two were discussing whether to add sugar or salt to the tofu pudding, Chu Qingyan suddenly heard a familiar voice calling her and couldn't help but turn to look. She saw Pang Zhijing, who was dressed in pink, waving vigorously at them. She couldn't help but smile in response. Then, she saw that there was not only a servant girl standing beside her, but also a person who surprised her very much, Xiao Ho. Xiao Su had obviously already seen the two of them. He looked at the two of them for a while, then lowered his head and asked, "Want to go over?" The little fellow smiled slyly and said, "Go, why wouldn't I go? I want to see how these two people usually get along. I'm very curious." Thus, when the two daughters-in-law enthusiastically bumped into each other, the two brothers, Xiao Su and Xiao Ho, expressed that the big lanterns that popped out of each other were an eyesore. "Why are you two here?" Chu Qingyan looked at Xiao Ho behind Pang Zhijing and asked in a low voice. "He said that he wanted to bring me to eat delicious food, so I eagerly followed him. You also know that I have no resistance to good food." Pang Zhijing said and took a bite of the barbecued meatball in her hand, using practical actions to show that she was a foodie. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but laugh. She took out the pancake she just bought and handed it to her. "Try this. It's crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. It tastes very good." At this time, because of Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan's intervention, their hands had quietly loosened. After all, there were acquaintances present, so they felt a little embarrassed. However, the pancake had to be held with both hands, or it would be very hot. So Pang Zhijing stuffed the unfinished barbecued meatball into Xiao Ho's hand, forgetting that Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan were still in front of her. She said bluntly, "I don't want to eat." "You can eat." Then, Chu Qingyan was stunned, Xiao Su was stunned, and Xiao Ho did not resist and took it. Then, he realized that the two people in front of him were staring at him in a very strange way. He then coughed a few times, and an uncomfortable expression appeared on his face. Among everyone, only Pang Zhijing was eating the pancake with relish. She sighed from time to time, not noticing anything. She even handed the half-eaten pancake to Xiao Ho's mouth and asked him if he wanted to have a bite. She completely did not notice how intimate such an action was. Xiao Ho immediately refused righteously, but this attracted the attention of Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan. Pang Zhijing felt wronged. He was eating happily just now, so why did he suddenly turn his back on her? She took a big bite of the pancake to vent her anger. At this time, Xiao Su felt that this place was okay for strolling around, but if they were to talk, it would be too noisy, so he suggested, "Let's go to the tea house." Before Xiao Ho could answer, Pang Zhijing, who stuffed a mouthful of pancake, immediately nodded. Okay, I'm dying of thirst." Xiao Ho, who wanted to refuse, could only swallow his words when he saw this. Chu Qingyan looked at the two of them and said, "Then let's go. There's a tea house in front. It's just a few steps away." "Okay, you guys lead the way." Pang Zhijing cheered. Chu Qingyan was affected by her mood. She could not help but laugh and walked in front with Big Ice Cube, while she and Xiao Ho walked behind. "Can you see it?" Chu Qingyan asked the person beside her in a low voice. "See what?" Xiao Su deliberately pretended not to understand to tease her. She could not help but roll her eyes at him, then pointed at the two behind her. "Do you realize that the way they get along is very similar to how we get along? So stupid, the two of them are in love with each other, but it's a pity that they don't seem to realize it," Chu Qingyan said regretfully. "But if Xiao Ho had not done so many bad things, I would like to matchmake the two of them." Xiao Su heard her and knocked her head lightly. "Don't be nosy. This is not between the two of them. It involves a lot of people. Let's just wait and see." She rubbed her head and muttered, "I'm just saying. Do we really have to put it into action?" Don't keep knocking my head like a teacher. Xiao Su could not help but laugh. Seeing him laugh so happily, she felt unbalanced. She turned her head and decided not to talk to him for 2 hours. Seeing that she was a little moody, Xiao Su felt a little funny. At this time, they happened to pass by a Tanghalu stall. Xiao Su stopped for a while, then returned to her side. At this moment, a brightly colored stick of candied hawthorn appeared in front of Chu Qingyan. At first glance, she was so happy that she instantly forgot about her promise to ignore him. She reached out to take the stick of candied hawthorn and ate it happily. Thus, the Cold War between the two of them, which had lasted for less than 5 minutes, was broken. Pang Zhijing and Xiao Ho, who were walking behind them, saw this scene and could not help but have their 3 views refreshed. Pang Zhijing pointed at Xiao Su and asked the people beside her, "Is this really the undefeated war god who was able to effortlessly defeat the hundreds of thousands of soldiers of our southern blue continent? Why do I feel that he doesn't look like him at all? How does he not look like him?" Although he was surprised, Xiao Ho felt that her description was a little exaggerated. He's very considerate, knows how to coax people, has a meticulous mind, and knows what the other party wants. Tell me, where can we find such an extraordinary temperament, such an excellent boyfriend? Moreover, he doesn't fit the image of the god of war on the battlefield. Pang Zhijing spared no effort in praising him. She was very envious of Qing Yan for being able to meet such a future partner. At this moment, Xiao Ho coldly said from the side, "Weren't you afraid of eldest brother's aura before? You said that as long as he was in a place, you wouldn't appear within a 1 li radius of him." Having been exposed, Pang Zhijing laughed mischievously, "People's thoughts will always change. There's nothing to be surprised about." The corner of Xiao Ho's eyes twitched, "Then you're really fickle." However, the 4 people's trip to the tea house did not succeed in the end. Because people from the King of England's residence suddenly came. After Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan received the news, they bid farewell to the 2 people and hurried back. Looking at the 2 people's departing figures, Pang Zhijing said with some regret, "I don't know when the next time everyone can drink tea together will be." After hearing this, Xiao Ho frowned slightly. He felt a little uncomfortable with the melancholy of parting that was often revealed in her words. He said, "As long as you have the heart, you will be able to gather them." She could only nod her head sadly, "All right." At this moment, 2 long-awaited figures had already appeared at the entrance of the King of England's residence. Chapter 1249. Little Yen, this is the residence of the King of England. An elegant voice sounded on the street. The passers-by looked over and saw a handsome young man in white robes. I see it, I see it. Those are big words. I'm not blind." The beautiful woman stood beside him. When she heard his words, she waved her hand as if to say, "You're so annoying." Along the way, he kept talking to her. He even patiently explained the name of the mountain and the story of the river to her. She could only keep rolling her eyes. "Oh, I see." The man nodded and said, "Do you see that restaurant? The roast duck there is delicious. I'll take you there when we have time." The beautiful woman held her forehead. Ever since she forgave him, he had turned into a nagging maniac. The most he did every day was talk to her, as if he wanted to make up for all the words he had said in the past few years. "Okay, can we talk later? Let's go into the residence first, okay?" She negotiated. The man smiled and nodded while holding her hand. "Okay, whatever you say." The man looked up and stood shoulder to shoulder with the person beside him at the entrance of the residence. His eyes were filled with nostalgia. For half a year, they were on the brink of death. She had never left him, and she had finally returned. "Master, Ethereal is back. You're finally back." At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from the other side of the street. It was choked with excitement and joy. Ethereal and Cheng Yenluo turned around and saw 2 figures walking toward them, their backs shadowed by the faint moonlight. Although the sky was dark and they couldn't see each other's faces clearly, the familiar feeling made them excited. They couldn't suppress their joy. "Master! Little girl! The four of them quickly gathered at the entrance of the residence. Why didn't you tell us you were coming back? If Water Spirit hadn't sent someone to inform us, we wouldn't have been able to welcome you immediately. Chu Qingyan went forward and hugged Cheng Yenluo tightly. Then, she said rather sadly. Cheng Yenluo smiled brightly. It's all to give you a surprise. Ethereal explained with a smile. Actually, due to the heavy rain 2 days ago, it was difficult for us to send a letter over. So, we thought that we had already sent a letter once, so we didn't write another one. We thought that we would be home soon. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Yan rolled her eyes. Don't you know how to chat? Okay. Yan is right. It's a surprise, not an accident. Ethereal immediately corrected herself. Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan looked at each other and saw surprise in each other's eyes. Chu Qingyan whispered in Yan Luo's ear, have the two of you overcome all difficulties, untied the knot in your hearts, and achieved positive results? Cheng Yenluo snorted. It's not that easy. He's still on probation. If he doesn't perform well in the future, I'll kick him out. Can you bear to? She expressed her doubts. Cheng Yenluo choked. Then, her gaze drifted as she said, at most, we'll just leave him hanging for a few days and bring him back. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but laugh when she heard this. It seemed that the two of them had progressed so quickly after not seeing each other for so long. There was no more resentment, no more inexplicable conflicts in their hearts, and no more arrogant self-esteem. They stood in front of each other, transparent, and no longer hiding their deep love. This was the best outcome. On the side, the two beloved women were whispering to each other, sometimes laughing out loud, sometimes pursing their lips and smiling at each other. Xiao Su and Xiao Yan couldn't help but smile along with them. At this moment, Xiao Su patted Ethereal's shoulder lightly. Welcome home. Although his tone was normal, Ethereal could hear the joy and relief in his master's voice. Tears welled up in his eyes as he nodded heavily. I'm back. Let's go in. Don't stand here like a fool. Chu Qingyan immediately urged them when she came back to her senses. All right, we've been rushing all this way and we're about to fall apart. Cheng Yenluo stretched her shoulders and complained. Bear with it a little longer. Later, we'll take a bath, have a meal, and have a good night's sleep to get rid of our fatigue. Chu Qingyan smiled and patted her hand. Thus, the four of them slowly entered the residence. Just now, when they were talking at the entrance, someone had already spread the news of Ethereal's return to the residence to the backyard. When they entered the mansion, a large group of people swarmed over. Hello, little Yama, you're finally back. Uncle Chu missed you so much. Mr. Chu was the first to jump out. He reached out and pinched Ethereal's face, stretching it out. Then, he exclaimed in surprise, alive, you're really back. Ethereal snatched his pitiful face from Mr. Chu's hand and said innocently, did old Master Chu think he saw a ghost in broad daylight? Mr. Chu didn't have time to entertain him. He turned to little Yama and said, did Hollow bully you recently? If he did, tell Uncle Chu will beat him up for you. This was an unfamiliar environment. Although many people knew each other, they were still unfamiliar with the place since it was their first time here. However, Mr. Chu's words unknowingly dispelled Cheng Yenluo's discomfort. She felt touched that someone was standing on her side. Ethereal rubbed his nose and said weakly, how would I dare to bully her? He didn't even have the time to feel pain. Cheng Yenluo looked at him provocatively, as if saying, look, I also have a family. If you dare to bully me, you should think twice. Ethereal didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but he was just as touched as she was. Everyone was taking good care of them. Turan, Hualing, and Turan all came forward to give him a big hug and lightly pat his shoulder. Hualing's face was full of tears. You're finally back. I finally don't have to answer old Master Chu's question every day about why you're not back yet. Hualing was very happy. My shoulder still hurts. You're back just in time. give me a few acupuncture needles. Turan had a smile on his face. A large group of patients are already rubbing their hands and waiting for your return. Prepare yourselves mentally. Ethereal's scalp tightened. Did he have to give him a greeting gift like this? However, after being away for so long, they finally met again. When they spoke, it was as if they had returned to the days of the past. There was no separation. Everyone had just met yesterday. Qing Yenluo stood on the side, watching him banter with everyone. She smiled brightly and a strange emotion flashed through her eyes. Chu Qingyan noticed the change in her expression. She walked to her side and asked in a low voice, "What are you thinking about?" "It's nothing. I can't help but feel happy for him when I see how close he is with everyone." After speaking, her eyes were filled with tears. She continued, "In the past, I was always worried about whether he would be lonely or if there would be no one to take care of him. Now that I see everyone, I'm very happy. In the days when I wasn't around, he had a group of friends by his side. I'm very grateful to the heavens for being so tolerant." Chu Qingyan patted her shoulder and said gently, "But to Ethereal, no one can compare to you. So you have to be good in the future, understand?" She smiled through her tears. "Okay." Chapter 1250. As the two had just returned, Chu Qingyan immediately arranged for someone to prepare hot water for them so that they could wash away their fatigue. When everyone sat down again, it was already an hour later. Everyone was curious about their experiences in the past 6 months, and the two were also curious about what had happened in their absence. Thus, they were having a pleasant conversation. "Ethereal, have you recovered from your injuries?" Huo Ling asked worriedly. Although he was in high spirits, he still trembled with fear when he recalled his serious injuries. Ethereal nodded. "I've fully recovered. It's mainly because of Master's superb medical skills and Yenluo's meticulous care. Otherwise, I might have gone to meet the King of Hell or be bedridden forever." When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but turn to look at Qing Yenluo, silently expressing their admiration and gratitude for her. If it weren't for her, they might not have been able to see their companion again. Father Chu stood up in shock, then said earnestly like a patriarch, "Kong, little King of Hell spent so much effort to save you. He's deeply affectionate. You don't have anything to repay him with, so give yourself to him. That's what the storytellers in the tea houses all say." Pfft, Qing Yenluo, who was drinking water, spat it out. What the hell? Speaking of which, she had lost both the person and the heart. She had suffered a great loss, all right? However, Ethereal played along with Father Chu's words. "If Yenluo is willing, I'm willing." Everyone was gratified. This blockhead had finally been enlightened. It wasn't easy. Qing Yenluo, on the other hand, felt that this person was becoming more and more shameless. So annoying. However, she blushed in embarrassment. Chu Qingyan smiled at the side. She felt that it wasn't easy to see them finally get married after going through so much. She couldn't help but interject, "Then when can we attend your wedding banquet?" "Little girl." Qing Yenluo flared up as if her tail had been stepped on. Ethereal immediately stood up and said to the young princess consort, "Then I'll have to ask the young princess consort to help me arrange it. This subordinate thinks that autumn is a good time." "Hey, hey, hey!" Qing Yenluo shouted angrily. "Autumn is just nice, the weather is good, it's not cold, not hot, it's very suitable for marriage." "Okay, I'll go back with my mother to help you look at the date." Chu Qingyan nodded, very happy to accept. "Thank you, young princess," Ethereal said gratefully. She was clearly talking about her life, but she was so blatantly ignored. Qing Yenluo expressed her sadness. Everyone else present was dumbfounded as they watched the young princess and Ethereal discuss such an important matter in just a few words. Huo Ling couldn't help but poke Ethereal, "Good brat, you're quite fast. You said this in front of your master and the young princess consort because you've made up your mind that Miss Qing won't brush you off, right? Ha ha ha, I reckon you'll have to kneel on the washboard when we get back." In the face of Huoling's schadenfreude, Ethereal looked helpless. If not for Xiaoyan's insistence, he wouldn't have forced the marriage in front of everyone. He had already missed too much time, he didn't want to miss out on her again. At this moment, Chu Yunqing's father raised his hand and said to his daughter, "Daddy wants to be a flower boy." Pfft! Chu Qingyan's head was filled with black lines. The crowd didn't understand the meaning of this word and looked at the two of them in confusion. He heard her say, "Daddy, flower girls are all for children." Chu Yunqing's father felt wronged. But Daddy is a child. Chu Qingyan, At this moment, Ethereal suddenly felt his master's gaze on him. He blinked and instantly received the hint. He immediately said, Sure, we're very happy to have Elder Chu as our flower boy. It's a great honor." Chu Yunqing's father was instantly overjoyed. Cheng Yanluo's mouth twitched. She was being represented again. Chu Qingyan was dumbfounded. Did they even know what a flower boy was supposed to do? Then, everyone talked about Ethereal's recovery process. They learned from Cheng Yanluo that when the treatment started, he was already on his last breath. If it weren't for the medicine, he would have died. The treatment process was very painful. At first, he was in a coma. Even after he recovered, he couldn't speak or move his limbs. Moreover, the recovery process was very uncomfortable. He often couldn't sleep in the middle of the night, he was in so much pain that he was covered in cold sweat. After the scabs formed, he often wanted to scratch them because of the large area of the wounds. If it weren't for his strong willpower, the scabs would have been torn open and the infection would have relapsed. After hearing this, everyone looked at Ethereal with a trace of heartache. He had been injured so badly that it wasn't easy for him to survive. It was already a blessing from the heavens to see him appear in front of everyone in one piece. It's all in the past now. Live well in the future. Xiao Su looked at Ethereal and smiled faintly. Ethereal nodded solemnly. I understand. Everyone left so as not to disturb the two of them. When only the two of them were left in the hall, Cheng Yanluo rolled her eyes at him. You've grown up, haven't you? How dare you force me to marry you? You better give me an explanation. Ethereal had just opened his mouth when she said, You don't have to explain. I'm not listening. I'm not listening. Seeing her throwing a tantrum, Ethereal reached out to hold her hand and said sincerely, Xiaoyan, don't worry. I'll always be by your side, dead or alive. Cheng Yanluo immediately raised her hand to cover his lips. Don't talk nonsense. It wasn't easy for me to save you. If I let you ruin me like this, I might as well just leave you there and not care about you anymore. Ethereal leaned close to her ear and chuckled softly. I won't. Because I know you can't bear to part with me. Cheng Yanluo blushed. This person was becoming more and more indecent. He was so annoying. After being lovey-dovey for a while, the two of them separated and returned to their respective rooms. After all, they had spent a lot of energy on the road and needed to make up for it. Cheng Yanluo had just returned to her courtyard in a light mood when she saw someone standing in the distance. He was looking up at the sky with his arms crossed. It was obvious that he was waiting for her. She walked closer to take a closer look and realized that it was Huoling. Huoling knew that she had returned when he heard her voice. He turned and nodded slightly at her. Is something the matter? Cheng Yanluo was puzzled that he had suddenly appeared in her courtyard. Because Huoling was Murong's brother, she spoke more politely than usual. Huoling was no longer as jumpy as before. He looked at her calmly and solemnly. Miss Cheng, I'm very happy that you've returned safely. I'm also very happy that you and Ethereal have reconciled, but... Chapter 1251. She only heard Huoling seriously say, Ethereal's feelings for you have been obvious to us brothers for so many years. We feel sad for him and sad for him at the same time, because the responsibility on our shoulders is not only for our master, but also for Shaolai cavalry and the common people. These years, although he has not been on the front line with us, Ethereal has used his medical skills to save many people. In our eyes, he is also a hero of the common people. If this time, you really decide to walk with him for the rest of your life, I hope you can be more tolerant of him and not leave him so easily. I hope you don't disappoint him. For men who have been ridden by Shaolai cavalry, except for those who are not moved, once they are moved, it will last forever. He paused and chuckled. Although my request sounds rude, you can treat it as his family's expectations for you. It was true that he liked to argue with Ethereal the most, but Ethereal had always been the brother he valued the most in his heart. No matter how much they dissed each other, Ethereal was the one who wanted him to be happy the most. Cheng Yanlua's heart was incomparably moved. In the past, she did not understand Murong's feelings for them and always wanted him to choose between her and them. In fact, later on, she found that she was always doing some very stupid things. They were them and she was her. To Murong, they were all very important, just like the palm of his hand. Xiao Su and the others were the back of his hand, his shield, protecting him. She was the palm of his hand, protected and treasured by him. There was no comparison at all. She was the one who was going down a dead end. Now that she finally came out, how could she easily give up on this man who loved her as much as his life? Her eyes were clear and sincere. You are really his best brothers. These, even if you don't say it, I will do it. Hualing seemed to be relieved after hearing this, then raised his usual smiling face. Then tonight, just treat it as I'm talking nonsense. I'm thinking too much. I wish you two a long life together and have a child soon. Cheng Yanlua's face instantly darkened. Did he look like someone who hated to be married? However, her heart was still warm. This trip down the mountain, she seemed to have gained a lot. For example, a love that had broken through a mirror and a sincere friend. Looking at Hualing's departing figure, she couldn't help but rejoice for Murong that he met such a group of brothers who treated him with sincerity. Qingxi Night Market. Pang Zhijing rubbed her belly, which seemed to be a few months pregnant, and burped without a care for her image. She took the handkerchief from Lu and wiped her mouth and hands. Then, she turned around and handed it to the person beside her. Xiao Ho looked at the handkerchief that she had wiped everywhere and reluctantly wiped his hands. I'm so full. I feel weak all over. I feel like if I'm allowed, I can just sleep anywhere. She whined and complained. At the same time, she staggered and almost fell down. Xiao Ho quickly pulled her back. Looking at her tired face, if he had known earlier, he wouldn't have let her stay so late. He helplessly pulled her to his side, then held her hand and walked back. She turned to look at the calm profile of the person beside her and couldn't help but say, Xiao Ho, let's take the carriage back. It's already so late, it's not safe to walk at night. There are people on this road, so it's quite safe. Also, you look very safe, so don't worry. Xiao Ho rejected her suggestion without even thinking. What do you mean look very safe? Although this princess can't be considered a beauty that can cause the downfall of a city, I still have a face that can captivate the birds and beasts. How can you say that? She paused, and her angry little face revealed a suspicious expression. Are you taking this opportunity to take revenge on me? Xiao Ho felt that it was fine to just listen to her self-evaluation and didn't need to take it seriously. However, he had some doubts about her last sentence. Revenge? That's right. Just now, I lied to you and said that I bought you a non-spicy drumstick, and then I had the boss secretly add chili to it. You must be holding a grudge, so you want me to walk until my legs break. You won't let me take the carriage. You're such a calculative bad silver. Can't you hold a boat in your stomach? Faced with her unreasonable accusation, Xiao Ho truly understood what it meant to say that only women and villains were difficult to deal with in this world. If you don't have the strength, then talk less. He said coldly. Humph. This baby has a little temper. Xiao Ho, you'll lose your baby like this. After saying this, she flung his hand away and walked with Lu, who was lagging behind. Her actions told him that she didn't want to talk to him anymore. Xiao Ho, on the other hand, was still immersed in that sentence just now. Baby? She was already an adult, yet she still called herself a baby. That was too funny. However, he smiled. If they had a baby, who would it resemble more? Seeing that she was angry, he didn't even comfort her. Pang Zhijing was even angrier now. Lu, who was standing at the side and watching everything, couldn't help but laugh and explain for Xiao Ho, Princess, Lord didn't let anyone find a carriage because you ate too much. If you don't walk to digest your food, you won't be able to sleep tonight. Is that so? After hearing this, she was a little stunned. Could it be that she had misunderstood him? At this moment, Lu nodded heavily. Lord treated the princess so well. He would help her eat whatever she couldn't finish. Even if he didn't want to eat, as long as the princess gave it to him, he wouldn't refuse. Along the way, she had witnessed every bit of the two's love and abuse. It made her want to find someone to pamper her. It seemed that she was really being unreasonable. Pang Zhijing was a person who knew when she was wrong. Knowing that she was wrong, she returned to his side without another word. She smiled again and stuffed her hand back into his, returning everything to how it was before. Xiao Ho felt a small and familiar hand in his palm. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and look at her. The latter returned him a big smile. He was helpless. What a fickle little rascal. However, he held her hand even tighter. He didn't want her to slip away again. Later, when Xiao Ho recalled the bright smile on her face when the two of them walked on the busy street, his heart couldn't help but ache. That was one of the few times the two of them went out to play. It also became the last beautiful memory of his life. After sending the little rascal back to the relay station, Xiao Ho turned to leave. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, a man in black appeared in front of him. Lord, our crown prince invites you for a chat. Xiao Ho raised his eyebrows. Pang Huang came to the capital. In the imperial study. Eunuch Chao came in with a letter in his hand. Your Majesty, there's news about the matter you sent someone to investigate. Please take a look. Eunuch Chao handed over the letter in his hand. Hearing this, Sichuan Emperor put down the memorial in his hand. He took the letter and opened it. He took out the paper inside and unfolded it. There were many things written on it. The more Sichuan Emperor read, the more his eyebrows furrowed. Finally, he slammed the letter on the table. What a Xiao Su! What a Chu Qingyan! The emperor was furious. His anger couldn't be quelled. Chapter 1252. Eunuch Chao was startled by this sudden turn of events. In the past year, he had never seen His Majesty so angry. Trembling with fear, he said, Your Majesty, please calm down. Anger is harmful to the body. Taking care of your body is more important. Sichuan Emperor was so angry that his chest heaved up and down. He pointed at the letter on the table and said angrily, Take a look for yourself. How can Jin not be angry about this matter? How can Jin not be angry? After receiving His Majesty's permission, Eunuch Chao finally dared to step forward and take a look at the letter. Just one look was enough to make him tremble with fear. The letter was densely packed with information about Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan. It said that when Xiao Su was in Lian City, he had an extremely outstanding strategist called Chu Yan. Most of the matters in Lian City were handled by him. Moreover, when they were fighting against the Southern Sung army, Chu Yan also followed along and gave advice. He contributed a lot, but this person was indeed Chu Qingyan in disguise. Regardless of whether she had contributed or not, this was the crime of deceiving the emperor. Reading further, Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan had left Lian City for a period of time. Their whereabouts were unknown. This was desertion without permission. With these two crimes added together, if they were to be dealt with, they would most likely be dealt with severely. Eunuch Chao's fingers couldn't help but tremble. It was no wonder that His Majesty would be so angry. The emperor's desire to control was very strong. Sichuan Emperor was someone who wouldn't allow others to deceive or betray him. He always thought that this son of his would obediently listen to his orders in Lian City and not cause trouble. He didn't expect that once he left his sight, he would actually do so many infuriating things. However, this didn't make the Sichuan emperor furious. He had long been suspicious of his son and had been on guard against him since he was a child. He had always tried to figure out his son with the most malicious attitude. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't find any evidence against him, the Sichuan emperor wouldn't have kept him alive until now. Sichuan emperor heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the deceitful side of him. It was as if the prey he had been waiting for many years had finally been caught. He could finally make his move. At first, Eunuch Chao sensed that His Majesty was furious. Now, he saw that although His Majesty's face was gloomy, his eyes were shining as if he was planning something. This made Eunuch Chao shiver involuntarily. Back then, when someone reported that the Luo family was plotting a rebellion, His Majesty had the same expression on his face that night. Sure enough, the next day, the Luo family was beheaded, exiled, and imprisoned. Eunuch Chao suddenly felt worried for Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan. What should he do? His Majesty didn't seem to want to give up so easily. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door of the hall. Go and see what's happening so late at night. Sichuan Emperor waved his hand and ordered. Eunuch Chao immediately went down. When he opened the door, he found that it was one of the palace servants who served the fourth prince. Seeing that he was panting and very anxious, Eunuch Chao couldn't help but ask, "What happened? Don't you know that His Majesty is ready to rest?" Eunuch Chao, His Highness suddenly vomited blood. The imperial physician is currently on his way to the main hall. This servant has come to report to His Majesty. After the servant caught his breath, he immediately spoke without stopping. Chao Ji was stunned. What was going on? Why did it all happen at the same time? The fourth prince was His Majesty's favorite. He had to report to His Majesty immediately when such a big thing happened. Therefore, he stepped aside and let the servant in. Sichuan Emperor was still thinking about how to punish Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan when he saw a person following behind Chao Ji. He narrowed his eyes. He thought that this palace servant looked familiar, but before he could recall who he was, he heard him cry out this grievous news. The West Xian Emperor was stunned. He sat on the dragon throne in a daze. Eunuch Chao had to call out to him several times before he came back to his senses. Quickly, prepare the carriage. I want to see Ranner. Sichuan Emperor immediately stood up and walked out of the hall. This was the first time he had seen His Majesty so panicked. Eunuch Chao didn't dare to delay. He immediately pulled the servant and left behind Sichuan Emperor. At the same time, Xiao Ho was following the man in black through a long secret passage. Suddenly, a magnificent house appeared in front of him. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He had heard that the Prince of Nansong had always liked to show off. The more gorgeous and exquisite, the better. He was a person who knew how to enjoy life. Now that he saw it, it was somewhat in line with the rumors. At the gate, there was already someone waiting there. When he saw Xiao Ho, he bowed and took over the man in black's mission to lead him in. Walking past the small bridge and the flowing water, walking past the lotus pond and the moonlight, a pavilion appeared in front of him. This pavilion was situated right beside the lake, allowing one to enjoy the scenery on the lake. One could also drink wine while facing the moon. It was poetic and elegant. A man was sitting in the pavilion. He was tall and strong, but his face was resolute and handsome. His long hair hung down on both sides of his body. He was unkempt, but there was a sense of carefreeness about him. He reminded people of the wild horses on the grassland. Prince Pang, long time no see. How have you been? Xiao Ho stood on the steps and cupped his hands with a smile. Indeed, it has been a few months. Pang Huang moved his body and changed his posture to lean against the pillar. He beckoned, Prince Yi, please take a seat. Don't be so polite. Xiao Ho admired his unruly posture. He sat down across from him and sized him up. Then he said, Your Highness looks much better. It seems that your body has recovered well. Pang Huang smiled. Thanks to Prince Yi's herbs, I was able to recover my inner energy. Now, my body is almost fully recovered. That's because your highness has a good foundation. If it were someone else, I'm afraid they wouldn't be able to achieve such results even after several months of recuperation, Xiaohou said politely. Pang Huang accepted his praise and said to him, "This is the strong liquor I brought from Nansang. Try it and see if it suits your taste." As he spoke, he clapped his hands. 7 or 8 enchanting women walked into the pavilion, their clothes fluttering in the wind. Just by looking at their faces, one could tell that they were not Shixian girls. Each of them had an exotic charm. They were all wearing clothes that exposed their navels. They were bold and unrestrained. All of them surrounded Pang Huang, singing and laughing. Their laughter was enchanting and free. Pang Huang immediately waved his hand and said, "I didn't ask you to come here to serve me. You guys go to Lord Yi and serve him." When the sisters came in, they saw the gentle and elegant Xiaohou sitting there. They were all overjoyed and wanted to go over. Unfortunately, the crown prince was here, so they didn't dare to show their thoughts. Now that they received the crown prince's order, they all went to Xiaohou in a line. Xiaohou looked at the dazzling women beside him and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. "Your Highness, what is the meaning of this?" "Prince Yi, your medicine healed my injuries. I am indebted to you. So, I ordered my men to carefully select these beauties. Tonight, I will give you an unforgettable night. After all, there is an old saying, isn't it hard to enjoy the grace of a beauty?" Pang Huang smiled ambiguously at him. Chapter 1253. Xiaohou couldn't help but frown at his words. "Isn't your highness here to discuss important matters with this prince?" Pang Huang's hand paused as he raised his wine cup. He looked at Ji Yunshu and chuckled. "Isn't this a good time to enjoy yourself with beauties and wine? There's plenty of time to discuss proper matters. There's no need to rush. Moreover, this prince is weary from the long journey and didn't invite Prince Yi to a welcoming feast. Not only did I rely on myself, I even brought beauties for Prince Yi. Don't you think this prince is very generous?" Hearing this, Xiaohou chuckled, "Your Highness the Crown Prince is indeed very interesting." Hearing his affirmation, Pang Huang's tone became even more ambiguous. "Then tonight, pick a few that you like and serve them. You can even take them into your room. They've all been trained. I guarantee you'll be satisfied." After he finished speaking, the foreign beauties bashfully pouted. "Your Highness, you're so annoying." Pang Huang laughed out loud. However, Xiaohou raised his hand and stopped the women beside him from approaching. He looked up at Pang Huang's confusion and said apologetically, "It seems this prince won't be able to enjoy your highness's kindness tonight." "Why?" Pang Huang leaned back in his chair and looked at Ji Yunshu inquisitively. Xiaohou said awkwardly, "A few days ago, this prince and the princess were engaged. The wedding date is near. If any unfavorable news were to spread, it would affect the diplomatic relations between the two countries. Therefore, this prince, his unspoken words were understood by everyone present." The women immediately looked aggrieved. Although Xiaohou rejected them tactfully, they thought they were pretty good-looking. Why couldn't he take a liking to them? Each of them turned to their prince and complained silently. Seeing Pang Huang's gaze, Prince Yi looked at Pang Huang and said, "Don't worry." Pang Huang caught the gazes of the beauties and spoke for them. "Prince Yi, you don't have to worry too much. No one will know about your relationship. Even if my royal sister finds out, she won't dare to do anything out of line. Last time, she was bold enough to change our plan and set you up. You can take your revenge. Anyway, her status in the Southern Blue Empire is very important. If anything happens to her, I will arrange for a princess to come over. Other than going through the formalities with your emperor, it won't be a hassle." Just as Pang Zhijing had said to Chu Qingyan, the Southern Blue Kingdom did not lack princesses. Once a princess fell, thousands and thousands of other princesses would stand up. When Xiaohou heard his words, he suddenly felt a wave of anger rise in his heart. He curled his fingers and endured it. At this time, the women who had been ignored by Xiaoho began to unwillingly talk about it all at once. Your Highness is right. This princess has a bad reputation in southern Song. She's unruly and willful. How can she be as gentle as us sisters? That's right, that's right. This servant was fortunate enough to witness the princess's trip. She was simply arrogant and despotic. This servant also heard that after the princess fell in love with young Master Yu Qingxi, she boldly confessed her love. The whole city knew about it and many people were making fun of her. That's right. Because young Master Yu's heart belongs to someone else, the princess made a move on his fiancé when she couldn't get him. Her methods were very cruel. This servant was scared. Everyone became more and more excited as they talked. They spoke all kinds of nonsense. However, no one noticed that Xiaoho's face was getting darker and darker. The veins on the back of his hand were popping out because he was exerting too much force. Pang Huang listened to their conversation with great interest. As he listened, he felt that something was wrong. It seemed that Xiaoho hadn't said a word from beginning to end. He couldn't help but turn to look at him. Prince Yi, why aren't you talking? Xiaoho lowered his eyes and laughed lowly. Your Highness, have you heard of an old saying? What is it? Pang Huang was puzzled by his irrelevant question. Xiaoho slowly raised his head. His gaze was as cold as ink. Summer insects can't talk about the ice. Frogs in the well can't talk about the sea. This saying is so profound. What does it mean? These women had never been to school and were illiterate. Most of them looked at him in confusion. Among the people present, only a few were literate. When they heard Xiaoho's words, their faces turned pale and they were completely at a loss. When Pang Huang heard this, he looked at him in disbelief. Are you trying to defend this prince's useless royal sister? Xiaoho's expression was as gentle as usual. This prince is only speaking the truth. Let's see how your Highness interprets it. Pang Huang looked at him deeply. Although there was a smile on his face, there was coldness in his eyes. He seemed to be angry and was no longer as calm as before. He also felt that Xiaoho hadn't looked at the women since they came in. His body was full of resistance. Pang Huang couldn't help but raise his hand and ask the bewildered women to leave first. Although these women's status was very low, they had all gone through many layers of training to reach this level. Observation was the most basic skill. Ever since Xiaoho said that old saying, they felt that the atmosphere in the pavilion was different. It was suffocating. Now that Pang Huang asked them to leave, they felt as if they had been pardoned. They immediately lifted their skirts and left, not daring to stay for a moment. Prince Yi, you've scared these beauties. Pang Huang said with a faint smile. Xiaoho curved his lips into a smile and said innocently, this prince doesn't seem to have done anything. Pang Huang swirled his wine cup and said slowly, it's because you didn't do anything that it's scary. Xiaoho asked, what do you mean? I'd like to hear the details. With beauties by your side, you can stay calm and look straight ahead. Everyone says that heroes can't resist the charms of beauties. But it doesn't work on Prince Yi. I admire your strong composure. Pang Huang said unhurriedly. Xiaoho smiled faintly, Your Highness, you're overpraising me. Pang Huang smiled. His eyes suddenly fell on Chu Li's face. His tone was unpredictable. However, I think there's another reason. That is, none of the beauties here are the ones in your heart. If you meet the one in your heart, then even heroes can't resist the charms of beauties. Xiaoho felt that there was a hidden meaning in his words. He seemed to be hinting at something. Your Highness, we're in a cooperative relationship. If you have something to say, you can say it directly. There's no need to beat around the bush. Because his voice was always gentle and warm, his words didn't make people feel disgusted. At this moment, Pang Huang withdrew his gaze and looked at the wine cup in his hand. He swirled the cup with his fingers and looked at the mellow wine swirling inside. It was so clean and clear that it could reflect the light of the lanterns in the corner of the pavilion. It was gorgeous and colorful. Then he said faintly, Prince Yi, are you interested in my sister? What? Xiao Ho was stunned and didn't react at all. Pang Huang raised his eyes and looked at him again. Because people's eyes don't lie. Chapter 1254. Pang Huang's words caused Xiao Ho to be completely stunned. This wasn't the first time he heard someone say this, but each time, the reaction in his heart was stronger than the last. Xiao Ho's obvious reaction made Pang Huang even more certain of his guess. I knew it. Why didn't you blame my sister when she tricked you? Instead, you took your anger out on me. This kind of differential treatment really makes one jealous. Pang Huang retracted the light in his eyes and leaned back in his chair. Although it sounded like he was accusing him, his tone wasn't. He raised his wine cup and drank it in one gulp. Xiao Ho was silent for a while. He quickly restrained his emotions and drank it in one gulp. The princess is only a chess piece in the plan. It's useless to punish her. Plus, this prince disdains to bicker with women. It's not like what the crown prince said. Pang Huang waved his hand. You don't need to find excuses. Let's not beat around the bush. This prince really doesn't understand why you would like someone like Pang Zhijing. She doesn't have the gentleness a woman should have. It's fine if she's unruly and willful, but she's always jealous. You don't even know that she's the laughingstock of the southern blue continent. If it wasn't for this marriage, she wouldn't have had the chance to see the light of day again. The ridicule in Pang Huang's words made Xiao Ho tighten his grip on the wine cup in his hand. He raised his eyebrows and the smile on his face disappeared. His eyes were ice cold. Your Highness, you're so perfunctory in choosing the princess. In the future, don't mention this in front of others. Otherwise, if it falls into the ears of others, it will sow discord between the two countries. Pang Huang was stunned. He really didn't notice this point. But wasn't Xiao Ho a partner? Why should he care about this? However, Xiao Ho continued, also, the woman you're talking about is about to become the future mistress of this prince's manor. Your Highness, do you think it's appropriate to say this? Pang Huang felt that he had misspoken. No man, no matter if he liked his wife or not, would allow others to insult her. This was a matter of a man's face. He suddenly felt that it was reasonable for Xiao Ho to be angry. You're right, Prince Yi. It's my fault. I take back my words. Come, let me toast you with this cup of wine. Take it as an apology for what I said just now. Although Pang Huang's temperament wasn't very good, the people around him were very loyal to him. The reason was that he was a principled person who would correct his mistakes. He was a person who would listen to advice. Even if the other party had offended him before, as long as the person had some merit, he would disregard the previous enmity and use them. He had a very clear principle of how to conduct himself and use people who were virtuous. Xiao Ho was a person with very strong self-control, but for him to lose his temper today, it was clear that Pang Huang had touched his bottom line. But at this time, Pang Huang's sincere apology made him quickly return to his usual self. Although there were still some fluctuations in his emotions, he had already concealed it. After all, they were all people who played with power. Although Pang Huang's actions couldn't calm his anger, as a crown prince, he was already giving face to him. Moreover, he found that such a flexible person would definitely achieve great things in the future. At this moment, they were still in a cooperative relationship, so he couldn't fall out with him. Therefore, he smiled as gently as usual. Your Highness, you're too serious. I was too sensitive. Take this cup of wine as my apology. Pang Huang couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He had already drunk that cup of wine and didn't stop him. Now, he wanted to toast him. Didn't that mean he was the one who drank the whole time? He suddenly felt that the man in front of him who smiled as gently as the spring breeze was actually very scheming. He wasn't as kind and easy to bully as he looked on the surface. Pang Huang drank the wine in one gulp again. He faintly felt that Pang Zhijing was a taboo topic for Xiao Ho. He also remembered what he had said before. This princess was the worst of the non-Sung imperial family. Now that she was about to become the princess consort, Pang Huang didn't have the face to mention this topic again. Therefore, he changed the topic. Has there been any movement on Xiao Su's side recently? Recently, he had been busy treating his injuries in bed and didn't have much energy to understand the Sichuan situation in the capital. In addition, some things had happened in the imperial family, so he couldn't even take care of himself. Xiao Ho nodded. Originally, there wasn't anything important. However, in the past 2 days, news came from the palace. Xiao Su plans to hand over his military power and return to his fief. He won't return to the capital. Pang Huang said in disbelief. He's actually handing over such a fat piece of meat? Doesn't he know what it means to have military power? That's half of the country's power. Why is he so stubborn? Moreover, shouldn't you be preparing to appoint an heir to the throne? To leave at such a crucial time, I really don't understand what's going on in his head. He's never done things according to common sense. Normal people can't guess what he's thinking. Xiao Ho remembered that ever since he was young, he had never been able to understand the thoughts of this imperial brother of his. Other people did their best to seize power, but he treated power like dirt and never cared about it. Other people did their best to curry favor with imperial father, but he hid as far away as he could. If he could not return, he would not return. This was also the reason why he had rarely appeared in the capital all these years. But what did this have to do with him? No matter what he did, he had to get rid of him. Moreover, he couldn't let him die so easily. Otherwise, in these 10 years, he would have plenty of opportunities to send him to hell. It was just that he didn't want him to die so easily. Pang Huang noticed his uncertain expression and rubbed his nose thoughtfully. Now that he's leaving the capital, won't our future plans be ruined? Pang Huang asked. Xiao Ho sneered. Imperial father hasn't agreed yet. Perhaps things will take a turn for the better. Moreover, I won't let him leave so easily. Otherwise, how can this play go on without a main character? Pang Huang felt a flash of hatred in his eyes as he spoke. Although it disappeared quickly, he still caught it. He secretly pondered what kind of deep hatred there was between Xiao Ho and Xiao Su. When the time came, he would ask his subordinates to investigate. Okay, Prince Yi, if you need my cooperation, just let me know. This time, I brought a lot of people. I'm not afraid of not having enough people. Pang Huang said generously. Xiao Ho smiled and agreed, okay, your highness is very straightforward. Come, let me toast you. Next, Xiao Ho toasted Pang Huang very enthusiastically. After a few rounds, Pang Huang was already drunk. Before Xiao Ho came, Pang Huang had already drunk a lot. In addition, he had urged him to drink cup after cup. Soon, Pang Huang couldn't take the alcohol anymore. This wine was very strong and had a strong aftertaste. Looking at Pang Huang lying on the table, Xiao Ho thought that when he woke up tomorrow, he would have a splitting headache. Xiao Ho sneered. This was a punishment for insulting little rascal just now. He put down the wine cup, got up and walked back the way he came. As for the wine cup on the table, after a gust of wind, a crack suddenly appeared on the body of the cup. Then, with a pa sound, it broke into pieces.